and turn on the website and read the letters. And then when I feel I'm particularly qualified to answer a problem, I do. I'm very much into helping and advising gay people. I have been involved in acting for gays for many, many years, since the youngest of my 3 sons was gay. And this was back in the 80s when it was almost a taboo subject, and my son was afraid to come out to me. But when he finally did, I indicated to him that I loved him. He was my son, and whatever made him happy would make me happy. Subsequently, I joined a wonderful group called PFLAG and learned everything I possibly could. I read every piece of literature, studied science issues, and recognized that being gay isn't chosen. I have walked in gay pride parades, and I have helpfully and hopefully made some of the most wonderful friends of wonderful people who are kind, compassionate, caring, and who give so much of themselves to our society.
Well, in those days, there was a profound loss within the gay community, and it was often painful, but you had some experience with loss. You lost your husband back in 1975, suddenly.
Yes. Well, my husband died without warning of a massive heart attack at age 56. And when I finally got over the initial shock and despair, I realized that I had to do something in this world that would continue to make him proud of me. When my youngest son was studying, he was a graduate of Albert Einstein Medical School in New York. And that's when AIDS raised its ugly head. And rather than go into the practice of treating children, he wanted to be a pediatrician. He was the first doctor in New York to treat AIDS. So very soon, he had developed a wonderful reputation. He had worked with Dr. Matilda Krim at AMFAR, that's the American Foundation for AIDS Research. And in 1989, he himself died of the disease at age 37. Nobody knows what the devastation occurs to a parent at losing a child unless he's experienced it himself. However, I was not going to allow that terrible, terrible thing that happened to me affect my life. And so I became even more involved and have been a founder and part of a volunteer group called Project Chicken Soup.
Perfect.
2 Sundays a month.
Kosher.
Right?
We cook kosher meals and deliver them to people with HIV and AIDS. This is all volunteer work. The reason we cook kosher food is because the only kitchen that has the equipment and the space for the volunteers is the Hirsch Kosher Kitchen on Fairfax Avenue. And so we rent that kitchen from the Jewish Federation, or rather the Jewish Family Service.
Right.
And we pay for all the necessary help, the dishwasher, the specially ordained person who makes sure that the food we use is kosher. And yet, less than 1/3 of our clients are Jewish, because in our creed, in our Torah, it says, you do not turn away the stranger, and anybody who asks for help is given that help. We don't require any kind of information other than there's a medical statement that a person has HIV or AIDS, and they have to sign a pledge that they will be at home when the food is delivered, because we may not leave food on the doorstep, and that they will be decently polite to the deliverers and to everybody else. And our clients love it because they don't get food like that anywhere else in the city.
Of course, and Los Angeles is richer for that kind of volunteerism, and it's nice to have an unsinkable Molly of our own. That's great. And obviously your kindness and humanity comes straight through, and you have a wide variety of subjects that are broached to you in confidence. Can you tell me a little bit, Candy, about the things that interest you or that you find maybe alarming or there are too many of them? What kind of things do you involve yourself with?
Well, I like to write to kids who are around 13, 14, 15,
Really?
who are going through that change that is so difficult for teenagers. And we live in a society of mixed messages. Abstinence, condoms, what do you do?
Right. And when your hormones are raging.
And they're raging.
Oh, boy.
They're raging. And these kids, I'm kind of amazed that they don't have more education about safe sex. I had one girl write me saying, well, I was on top, so I couldn't have gotten pregnant.
Oh, gosh.
And I try to answer as many as I can because it's the girls that I get the most from because they're being pressured. And I try to give advice in a gentle way, but tell them, wait, just wait. You're too young.
Well, one of the grand things of getting older is that very few things can shock us anymore.
That's true.
And I'm really not surprised that youngsters who are familiar and live with the internet could find wonderful people to share with them the value of your experience. So after the wacky world of music and artists and writers, do you find common threads, though? If you focus on the 13 and 14-year-olds, there are many times suicide issues.
Oh, yeah,
People who,
we get those.
Particularly that age is a very vulnerable age for a young girl.
It is. Well, actually, this guy was considering committing suicide. And I think I could tell by the letter he was probably about 16 or 17. And he went through this whole litany of what was wrong with his life. And I realized that he was very literate and wrote a good letter. And I just had this sense he was feeling sorry for himself.
Yes.
So I kind of said, I'm going to shake you. I'm
Yeah,
not going to be your grandmother.
To get over it.
And say, get over it. And he wrote me back. Yeah.
It'll be helpful if we kind of illustrate how the Elder Wisdom Circle imparts advice to younger people. So Aging in LA decided to do a home visit. Now let's watch. Who says the past can't equip us for the future? Enter Molly Peer, who was a military wife from 1940 through 46 and then became the mother of 3, along with Candy Montero, who during the mid-70s worked as a reporter for Billboard Radio. One might ask, what do these two women have in common? As active seniors, they contribute their personal life experiences to the Elder Wisdom Circle, an online advice column for young adults. Aging in LA stopped by the campus of USC to get student questions about life's invariable problems.
Hi, my name is Jerry. My question is, I'm my father, 65 years old, and I would like to know who could I establish a good relationship with him because I'm mostly into the young stuff and he's into the older stuff, so I'd like to know how can I actually establish a good relationship with my father.
Jerry, I'm so pleased that you sent a note to us asking that question. I'm of the same generation as your dad, and I know that it's very difficult to accept our younger children the way life is today. But you have to get in touch with your father. Call him on the phone, send him a letter, do any way you possibly can to make contact with him with no anger, with no feeling of regret. Let him understand that you're living the life you need to live in today's society. Tell him how successful you are if you've got a good job and are working at it. If you're married, tell him that you have a wonderful wife and that you're very happy. If you have children, tell him that you want him to know his grandchildren, that they're lovely, lovely children and they need to have him in their life. Try to make him understand that things are different now and you can't live up to his expectations if they're not realistic.
What I want to ask an elder is, when you're looking back at your life, is there anything that you think that you could have done better? Because I'm not sure if I'm not making the right turn in my life at the moment. Is there anything that you wish that you missed out on, that you wish you'd done better? Education, job, you let go of something, let go of an important person that could have changed your life?
Well, Aldel, that is a question that I've asked many, many times, and if I had $10 for each one due to inflation, I would be a rich woman. But unfortunately, the only thing about mistakes, the good things about mistakes, is that you learn from them and you try not to repeat them. But mistakes are part of life, and that's, as I said, that's how you learn. And the important thing is to remember that along with the mistakes, you made some good decisions. And think about those, dwell on those. And as my mom always said, be prepared for the luck that comes. You can avoid a lot of mistakes if you're prepared in education and relationships, good friends, keeping close to your family, being at work 10 minutes early and leave 10 minutes late. And that way, when success does come, and it will in the form of some form of luck, you will be prepared and you won't make as many mistakes. But you're going to make mistakes and learn by it. That's the important thing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, we've all made that.
Yes. No one goes through this life unscathed.
That's true.
Boy, is it ever true. Everybody gets lemons. It's so amazing. Life, as the old poet said, is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And do you think the media is playing a role in sort of creating unrealistic expectations for our young people, Molly?
Yes, I do. There's a tremendous emphasis these days on sexual activity.
Yes.
And people have lost sight of the fact that sex is not a little game you play for a momentary pleasure. Sex should be an expression of true love between two people, an addendum to all of the other variants that go into loving another person. The caring, the wanting to please, all of that is very important. And sex is important too, but it should have meaning, more or less the way it did when I was growing up. And
I love the advice, but it's time for a short break. When we return, we'll talk more with Molly Peer and Candy Montero, members of the Elder Wisdom Circle. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In the case of a disaster, you need to be able to communicate with emergency personnel and your support network, as well as to stay current with the latest information. For additional information, please contact the Department on Disability or the Emergency Management Department by calling the numbers on the screen or by dialing 311.
Before approaching an intersection, so that's why two wrong turns don't make a right turn. Now let's learn about tailgating.
Hey, that's how I got my ticket.
You got a ticket for tailgating? That's not good. That can be really annoying.
Doesn't get you there any faster.
It leaves you no distance to brake.
Which makes it easier to get into a crash.
And it also may increase your insurance premium. And I hate tailgaters. Tailgating causes crashes. Back off. Watch the road.
Welcome back to Aging in L.A. Our topic today, the Elder Wisdom Circle. And our guests are two members of that organization, Molly Peer and Candy Montero. Again, thank you both for joining us. Now, Candy, you've got this life, in for a penny, in for a pound, because the Elder Wisdom Circle isn't your only volunteer activity. Tell us a little bit about the other part of your life.
Well, about 6 years ago, one of my clients actually was a cat counselor. And I said, what is a cat counselor?
Right.
She said, well, I volunteer at Pet Orphans. So I went down and went through the orientation. And it's a wonderful organization. It's been in business actually just about 3 days ago, 36 years.
Wow.
And they've adopted out about 30,000 dogs to permanent homes. And I volunteer at the front desk when the prospective parents come. I have them fill out the forms, and we talk, and they go through the counseling and go through the kennel. And I love it. It's so wonderful to see these little doggies go home, because they get a bath before they go home. And their little tails are going, we're going home.
Yeah. A rescue dog is always grateful. Always
Very
grateful.
It's amazing. I have 2 rescues myself, and they have separation anxiety when you first take them home, and they will not leave your side. If you leave the room, they cry.
Yes.
It takes them about 3 months till they know they're home.
Yeah. Or longer.
Yeah.
My little scamper, he's still not sure I'm ever coming back.
Or when you come home, it's like you've been to Cambodia and back, right?
Yeah.
Where have you been?
Exactly. Or even if you go for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
you know, it's the same routine. Okay, I'll get you your snack. Hang on.
I'm here.
But this part of your heart, which you're willing to share with other people, is a big component. And the reward in volunteering,
Yeah.
because you get good stuff happening. Now, Molly, when you, at the end of the day, when you put your head down on the pillow, do you kind of feel like, I'm everybody's grandma, their Jewish grandma?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, at Project Chicken Soup, I am known as the resident Jewish grandmother. And when I first started, I was the resident Jewish mother, but I graduated to resident Jewish grandmother. But doing this work doesn't have the great emphasis for others as it has for me. I feel it has kept me well, it has kept me alive, it has kept me in good health, and besides that, for me, there's a very strong spiritual connection with my son. While he was very, very talented as a doctor, I don't have that kind of talent, but I am a cook. And I
Just
can
as
cook.
important.
Well, of course it is. You know, you get that good advice from your Jewish grandmother, and oh, by the way, you get the pinch on the cheek and chicken soup. Of course. You know, my favorite Jewish grandmother story concerns a study that they did at Yale New Haven, where they took 100 people who had been diagnosed with emotional issues, and they split them up into 3 groups. One group went to psychiatrists, another group went to psychologists, and the third group went to Jewish grandmothers recruited from the local temple. Now, who do you suppose came up with the best results? Of course, the Jewish grandmothers, because they had that, their wisdom was based on experience and love and, oh yeah, a good bowl of soup. So, good stuff. But Candy, it has to be emotionally wrenching when an issue comes before you that, boy, the person has obviously admitted they've made a mistake, but what if they're pregnant
Yeah.
and 14? How do you deal with that?
Well, my heart sinks the first time. I think,
Yeah.
oh no. But then, you know, these kids really are less informed than you think. And the first thing I type out to them, are you sure? You should go to a doctor and make sure that this is the case. And because these home pregnancy tests, I think, are pretty good, but they're not infallible. But the most important thing is you've got to tell your parents. And they usually haven't told their parents because they didn't want to disappoint them, they didn't want to get them upset. But your parents are absolutely your best friends. Boyfriends come and go, girlfriends come and go, but parents and grandparents are there in your life forever. They care about you more than anybody else.
Yes, and it's so true. There's a repetitive nature to the troubles that human beings get into, and Shakespeare said it. There's only 7 stories. And do you have to guard, Molly? Do you guard against saying, "Oh, I've heard this one before"?
Never.
See, that's
I
important.
treat each individual letter as an individual, unique problem. I don't refer to others. I just concentrate on the writer. And often I try to be consoling, but I also try to teach a lesson. And while you can't take back what has already happened, you can learn for future behavior.
Right, that's true. And of course, I'm such an optimist. I'm always telling people, in that room full of manure, there's a pony. You know, you're going to have. But sometimes you have to search so hard for it. Do you compare notes with the other volunteers, Candy?
No, not really.
So you're out there on your own.
Yeah.
Yes.
But unlike Molly, what I'll do with a lot of those letters, because there really are only 7 different problems, but as Molly says, each one is individual. But many times I'll say, you're not alone. I get so many letters on this. There's so many people have the same problem, so don't feel like it's only happening to you.
Right. And, you know, before I go any further, I want to mention the website so that people, there may be folks out there that want to make contact. There's the website up on the screen, okay? You see it? elderwisdomcircle.org. You can. Is the process fairly straightforward?
Oh, yes,
to
it's
get
just
in
like any
contact?
website.
Really?
Just go, yeah.
Okay, a couple of clicks and you
You're
write
there.
down your problem?
Yeah.
Wow,
It's easy.
It's important, too, because we've lost something in our culture when entire families used to not only be together under a roof, but the community was many times your aunts and uncles and cousins, and that's not there anymore. How was your relationship with your grandparents? Did you know your grandparents?
Yes, very much so. Unfortunately, they died within 3 weeks of each other. But I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. My grandparents lived on the Lower East Side. We spent every weekend, every Sabbath, and every major holiday with my grandparents.
Ah, great.
I remember sitting in my grandmother's lap. I remember her giving me ice cream because they lived in a tenement over the pharmacy which my uncle owned.
And there was an
Yes.
ice cream parlor there?
And yes, and I learned to jerk sodas when I was no more than 8 years old.
Well, time is a little short, and I'm gonna drop a dime on you, Molly, because if you're out there thinking, "Oh, I'm too old for all of this," Molly is 88 years young, and I'm so proud to know you, and bless you both for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it looks like our time is up for today's program. Our thanks to our guests on Aging in L.A., members of the Elder Wisdom Circle, Molly Peer and Candy Montero. And now, it's time for today's Senior Stat Shot. Since today's program was all about sharing advice, we have some tips for seniors when it comes to emergency preparedness. You should prepare long before a sudden emergency and learn how to protect yourself and cope with disaster by planning ahead. Here's a disaster checklist. Assemble a disaster supplies kit, including medical and general supplies. Arrange for someone to check up on you. Plan and practice the best escape routes from your home. Find the safe places in your home for each type of emergency. Have a plan to signal the need for help. Post emergency numbers near your phone. If you have home health care, plan ahead with your agency for emergency procedures. And teach those who may need to assist you in an emergency how to operate necessary equipment. Be sure they will be able to reach you, and that's today's Senior Stat Shot. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens, and we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and ideas for future programs. So please give us a call. The number's there on your screen, area code 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Molly, thank you so much.
The biggest blessing in life is to realize your personal power.
So many of us wonder, why are we living? Well, that's why we're living. To help others.
Community work brings families closer together.
When we help each other, we all get healthier.
Doing good for others, doing positive action always comes back around and enriches your life. It's the biggest gift you could ever give yourself.
Doing good is good for all of us.
Please join us in volunteering.
Improve your health by helping others. Visit iparticipate.org.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Join us as soon as possible. We will be at a bare minimum quorum, colleagues, so we need each one of those members to be here in chambers right away. As soon as we do establish a quorum, we'll run through the agenda and we'll continue with our presentations. But we're now live on Channel 35, and I want to wish everybody a very good morning at this meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for Friday, the 9th of July, 2010. I want to thank our guests that are here in council chambers, as well as our viewers on Channel 35 and those who are joining us through the internet, through our city's homepage at lacity.org, and through their telephones through council phone at 213-621-CITY. It's a service of the city to make following council as easy as possible. Also at our city's website at lacity.org, there's a wealth of information, links to our city departments like the fire and police departments, our city services, and a wealth of other information to improve the quality of life. We are awaiting those council members who are late this morning, council members Alarcon, Hahn, and Huizar. I want to thank those that are here on time, council members Koretz, Krikorian, Parks, Rosendahl, Smith, and Wesson. And like every Friday, we have presentations, so we'll be beginning those right away, and I'm going to hand over the chair here to Mr. Smith.
And the chair calls upon Mr. Garcetti for the first presentation.
Come on, everybody. You can all feel free to feel whatever you want. You don't have to, you can. It's open to you.
We'll follow them up when we do that.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues this morning. This is a great day for us to celebrate some extremely hard work. I just came from a press conference with the Mayor and Chief Beck, where we were talking about the violent crime, which is down by double digits this year in the city. The hard work of the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department, their supporters in the community groups, and our law enforcement partners in other jurisdictions as well that have really, I think, created a model for making a safer city. Conventional wisdom says that when the economy is down, crime goes up. But today we honor the men and women of the Northeast Division of the Los Angeles Police Department, their partners in law enforcement, many other city workers who've been part of transforming a neighborhood. After the mayor and the chief spoke about the crime stats being down, I said, let me just frame what this means. For those of us that are in the council, this is very personal. We meet, through Mr. Parks, the family of the victims of a serial killer in South Los Angeles that today may have some measure of justice due to his hard work, the resources of the Los Angeles Police Department that you all have supported to make sure we can do things like a task force, and who today feel safer on the streets of South Los Angeles. Today in Rampart Division, the family of a transgendered woman who was murdered, Pauline Ibarra, will have a sense of justice as the suspected killer in that case is now in custody through the hard work of men and women. And the third example that I pointed out was this in Glassell Park, in the Drew Estara area of Glassell Park, where we know residents personally that we have come to know who for their entire lives have been scared coming home. The most basic thing that we do and that we can take for granted, they used to come home, lock their doors, hope there wouldn't be any gunfire, and feared certain parts of the neighborhood, that if they crossed the gangbangers in the wrong way, that they would be in trouble. Well, in the northeast of Los Angeles, we have a division that proves by getting tough, but by also being smart, by getting creative and engaging the community, we can keep crime down no matter how difficult it may seem. Specifically today we honor, and I know Mr. Reyes would be a part of this. He's excused today, but he is here in spirit as a co-presenter of this, and Mr. Huizar has some of the area too in Glassell Park that we share together. Collectively today we honor these officers and their colleagues, and the community members who work side by side with them for taking on the Toonerville and Avenue gangs, and bringing an 80% reduction in homicides and a 40% reduction in overall crime in the northeast Los Angeles area over the past 2 years. I think that deserves a round of applause. In addition to supporting LAPD, what we've tried to do from the council office is to undertake a strategy to reduce violence and crime with an action plan of community organizing. That as soon as we are able to take criminals out or to go after gang members, we bring city services in. Whether it's lights that people have never had on their streets, whether it's organizing health fairs in a community park, events that connect people with each other and neighbors with their community again. And today we're joined by Captain Murphy, who has been the fearless leader of the Northeast Police Division, somebody who I count as a personal friend as well as somebody who's an extraordinary police professional. And the men and women who serve underneath him have been absolutely stellar partners with us. The officers in Northeast don't just patrol the streets on their beat. They've taken the time to become part of the community. They not only put their lives on the line for us, but they dedicate their lives to the people of Los Angeles. It's because a combined strategy where the city and the community and the businesses in Northeast and LAPD work hand in hand that crime is at historic lows, having dropped every year for the last 6 years. As other big cities have seen their crime rates increase, Los Angeles has gotten safer. Let me briefly describe the incredible law enforcement effort to take down Toonerville and to crack down on the avenues. And if you want to cut back a year earlier, remember schools being locked down, an elementary and a middle school on Fletcher Drive being locked down, police helicopters overhead, an entire neighborhood closed off, 2 police officers shot at by gang members with AK-47s. And think for a moment about the fear in that community and for every child that will remember that day forever. But on July 9th, 2009, 500 LAPD, federal and law enforcement officers gathered at Dodger Stadium and moved out into the community. They simultaneously served 21 search warrants on Toonerville gang, arresting 9 members for murder, 9 for murder, 10 other gang members on narcotics distribution charges, and taking 67 guns, no doubt used for violent crime many times, off of our streets. The Avenues gang is one of the oldest and most powerful gangs in the city of Los Angeles, has strong ties to the Mexican mafia. They have long terrorized neighborhoods within northeast area of Los Angeles, and they were responsible for the cold-blooded murder of Los Angeles Sheriff Deputy Juan Abel Escalante. 2 separate major gang crackdowns, the largest in LAPD history, were initiated against the Avenues gang involving 1,300 law enforcement officers. And these raids resulted in the incarceration of 149 criminals and 13 gang hangouts being shut down. The headquarters, which the city attorney's office did an amazing job at abating and keeping a record of the criminal activity that was going on in this main home that was the headquarters of the Drew Street clique of this gang, is now gone. It's been torn down. And through the bank that took it over, and we'll be talking more about this in the future, they have donated it to the people of this neighborhood, and it will be reborn as a community garden. Once where there was fear and where there was crime and where there was degradation of the community, there will be literally hope growing on the streets. In closing, I want to briefly thank the agencies who work closely with LAPD on these efforts. As I mentioned, the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles County Probation Department, United States Attorney's Office, the Drug Enforcement Administration High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Team 50, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Internal Revenue Service, Glendale Police Department, Ontario Police Department, Riverside Police Department, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, Riverside Sheriff's Department, and up in Toonerville, which is in the north of Atwater, the situation has been the same as what we saw with Drew Street Clique. Between these two, we have seen incredible strides made. In fact, I did a ride-along with a friend about 2 years ago, and he wasn't from Northeast. He was just stationed there for the night. And he said, well, take me to where we're most likely to see some activity. And we drove up to the Chevy Chase Park in North Atwater Village. It was 10 at night on a Friday night where we expect everybody to be in fear. And all we saw were a couple mothers walking their newborn kids in strollers. It's my honor as Council President and Council Member of the 13th District to officially honor the men and women of Northeast Division of LAPD, and we offer them our deepest thanks. I hope you'll join me in a great round of applause for all of them. And I'd like to ask Captain Murphy to step forward to say some words on behalf of his men and women.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Council President Eric Garcetti for all of his support, not only in these gang takedowns, but in each day. I'd also thank the other council members that I work with on a day-to-day basis, Councilmember Reyes, Tom LaBonge, and Jose Huizar. Thank you very much, council members. 2.5 years ago, when I got to Northeast area, to say that Northeast was in chaos would be a mild statement. At that time, Drew Astoria area was probably the biggest drug market in the city. We were having shootouts on the streets right there at on Drew Street at Astoria. 2 weeks later, we had another shootout in Cypress Park. Just tremendous problems there, just very, very big problems. And what I'd like to recognize is my gang unit, the Northeast Gang Enforcement Detail, and also the detectives. They were the ones that actually reached out to the federal enforcement and asked to start these task forces. And let's give them a big round of applause for their initiative. It did not come from the captain. It did not come from the chief of police. It came from the officers on the street because they know the crime the best. We ended up doing 3 separate gang takedowns. The first one was on Drew Street. The second one was on Toonerville, and the third one was on the avenues, the other sets that Drew Street included, including Division Street, 43s and 57s. And to share with that, we probably had close to 2,000 officers and federal agents involved in all 3 of those gang takedowns. In total, we indicted or arrested 200 hardcore gang members, took 126 firearms off the street, seized 64,000, 10 vehicles, over 1,500 grams of different types of narcotics, baited 15 homes. And the best statistic of all is what the council president said, because what we're in it is for today. We have drove down homicide rate 80%. Actually, it's 78.8, but we'll say 80%. So we'll round it up. And gang crime over 40%. And I think that the Times, we're asking the Times to do some follow-up stories, and there was a lot of hard work. Let me say this, that the community was so supportive of it. They stepped up. They share in all of this great success that we had. We did a picnic there 1 year later after we had taken down Drew Street, and we had the Times come and speak, and I wanted them to do a positive story. And their headline summarized this whole effort of why we wanted to do it. And the headline said, "Where gangs once ruled, kids now play." and that's why we're in this business, and that's why please join me in giving a big round of applause for all the people in these rows right here that made those neighborhoods safe for the people that live there. With that, we're going to give out some certificates. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm just going to read through these. Oh, yes. Oh, go ahead, please.
Mr. Garcetti, we also have Mr. Weezer would like to speak.
I just quickly wanted to thank you, Captain Murphy, Commander Perez, and all the officers who are here today. You know, each and every day you're out there putting your own lives on the line for all of us. And it's made a big difference, everything that was talked about today. When you walk in Northeast and you hear people talk about how it used to be in these corridors on Drew Street and sections of Cypress Park, and now when children do play, when people feel comfortable walking around, people talk about it, they hear it, and it's just a big difference. So thank you to all your hard work. I know this is not easy work, but the leadership that we see at Northeast Division certainly had a lot to do with it in the day-to-day work that our officers put in. Thank you so much on behalf of the city, and thank you, President Garcetti, for bringing this to all of the city's attention.
Thank you. And Tom, do you want to say something? Tom O'Brien, who we've honored here before, was U.S. Attorney here in Southern District, and I just want to point him out as well. He did a really extraordinary job. And would go out to the community sometimes at the moments of most fear and actually would take the questions, would take the yelling or anything else, but really was a calming and I think reassuring influence in the midst of some of the toughest times. And it speaks volumes about who he is as a person, but I'd like to give him a chance to say a couple words too on behalf of the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Thanks, Eric. Just briefly, thank you for honoring the men and women of law enforcement once again. As someone who used to work on a day-to-day basis with these folks, I can tell you that for the minimum wage they receive, you get a heck of a bang out of your buck. These guys are putting their lives on the line every single day for the citizens here of Los Angeles. It works in L.A. and it doesn't work everywhere else in the nation, and I think it's because of the leadership that we display here in Los Angeles. So we have the heads of federal agencies, local law enforcement, the DA's office, the city attorney's office, my former office at U.S. Attorney's Office, focusing on an issue, how to solve it, and how to take care of these people and put them away and protect the community. I've always believed as a former U.S. attorney that there's two aspects of dealing with gang crime. It's a carrot and stick, and one is the things that the city council does and the government does, which is provide numerous opportunities and choices for people to go down the right path. And we provide that opportunity for them through a lot of funding, a lot of programs, and a lot of folks that take care of those. The other part of that program, however, is the folks who don't choose to do that and choose instead to prey on people of the community. And oftentimes, especially in Northeast Division, some of the poorest people in Los Angeles, there's got to be a retribution for them. And these folks here in law enforcement took care of them. Going out in those takedowns, we had over 1,000 law enforcement taking people down, taking over 200 people down, and many of them in federal custody for the first time ever. They're doing hard time, federal time. Around the country, they're in federal prisons now. And I think the message goes back to the same people who are still in the community, which is take the right path in life. Take care of these opportunities. If you don't, law enforcement hasn't left. We've had a heck of an impact, but law enforcement is still there in that community. And if you don't do it the right way, we're going to introduce you to a federal prison, and you're going to end up doing 10 or 15 or 20 or 25 years of hard time in federal prison. And that's the choice you have. And I just want to thank the city council, the mayor, my friends in the city attorneys and the DA's office in particular, as well as my former prosecutors, for doing a heck of a job in doing this program and working it together. So thank you very much. Thanks, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank Commander Perez, who's here as well, who's no stranger to the Northeast and has done a great job providing leadership, and thank him for his outstanding work. That's been a big part of this effort, too. I'm going to read these. We're going to give them out in the back. We'll take a picture together. But, again, actually, folks want to just come real quick on these. Drug Enforcement Administration High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Team 52. Got it up here? And 50. Los Angeles Police Department. The Gang and Narcotics Division. Somebody wants to step forward from that. The Robbery Homicide Division as well. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Thank you. One of those moments where we celebrate the Internal Revenue Service. IRS. Couldn't have done it without you. They're not just taxing you? Are they here today? All right, we'll make sure. This is a $5,000 tax certificate right there. Glendale Police Department, thank you to Glendale, a great neighbor to the city of Los Angeles. Thanks so much. The Riverside Sheriff's Department as well, and the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. Anybody from the Riverside? All right, cool. The Riverside Police Department as well. Ontario Police Department. This guy works everywhere. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I think do we do already? Take another one. There's two for you. One for you and one for the rest of the office. And then finally, to the Toonerville Gang Investigation Team, if they'd all come forward, Northeast Los Angeles Police Department. You get the big one. We want to thank you, and we'll give this to Captain Murphy. But again, a round of applause for an extraordinary team. This is how the city should work.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti, and congratulations, Northeast Division. Next will be Mr. Parks for Mr. Parks' presentation with a follow-up.
I know it's like the city gives the city, but they did a great job.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today we have two organizations here today to honor the National Minority Mental Health Month in the month of July. And I'd like to ask first Dr. Sandra Cox to come up, who is the chair and also the rest of the group. The chair and the founder of the Coalition of Mental Health Professionals. And we want to honor them along with another group that provides significant mental health services to the 8th District. Come up here. And first of all, and we're going to do this in two pieces, and we're going to rely on Dr. Cox to introduce all of the people that accompanied her. But the Coalition of Mental Health Professionals is a private, nonprofit, community-based organization that came about after the '92 riot. It was clear that there was a need for mental health services. They recognized after these disturbances that there was particular instances of perceived injustice that had accumulated over decades. They also saw there was a great deal of neglect in the minority communities of Southern California. The coalition came about to solve these issues. The mission of the coalition is to serve and empower LA County residents through the development of mental health agency providing mental health services and related services to enhance the well-being of the community and improve the quality of life. Coalition provides services to multi-ethnic, multilingual communities using professionals who represent the community they serve. The coalition also offers individual, group, and family therapy, psychological assessment, parenting classes, domestic violence, anger management, and critical incidents of stress debriefing. They also provide AIDS information, awareness prevention, and counseling and referral services as relates to AIDS and HIV. We're here today to not only honor them in the fact that they provide a tremendous service to the 8th District and the region, but also the fact that they recently have been selected by this council to be a Family Source Center in South Los Angeles. And so that's something that they also add to their coalition activities, and we're very pleased to honor them today, particularly under the label of this month being Minority Mental Health Month. And let me ask Dr. Cox to come up and make some comments, and then we have another group we'll honor in just a minute.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good morning. I'm truly honored to be here representing the Coalition of Mental Health Professionals and also the Family Source Southeast 2. And when I come, I don't come alone because I didn't do it alone. And I brought our supporters and friends and colleagues here, and I'd like to introduce them this morning. Dorothy McDonald, one of our board members. Brenda Cox, staff. Reba Long, staff. Karen Amor, friend. Dr. Thelma Eaton, supporter and always friend. Dr. Virginia Hathaway, National Southern California chapter president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. Gloria Amor, board member. Dove Pinckney, Savage Pinckney, National Coalition. And also Toni Preckwinkle, who is an alderman visiting here from Chicago, and she didn't come forward. Stand up, Toni, and wave. We have friends in Chicago. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and most of all, thank you for giving us an opportunity to be one of the Family Source centers in Los Angeles. And we are so proud to be able to help our community to increase the level of economic development for the adults and the academic achievement for the youth. We appreciate this opportunity.
Okay. Let me just slide in here for just 1 second. Dr. Cox, on behalf of the City Council, and you notice every elected official is signed this, we want to just honor you and your organization for the job you're doing throughout the region, but specifically in South Los Angeles.
Thank you very much.
If everybody has a seat on that front row, we're going to go in the back in just a second. Let's have a seat on the front row. Thank you. Let's have a seat there and we'll go in the back. Thank you, Mr. President. Our second presentation will be to NAMI Urban Los Angeles. And let me ask the second group to come up and also honoring them because, again, it's mental health, Minority Mental Health Month. And we're joined today, and our speaker is going to be Madeline Cobb Brown, and she'll introduce the rest of the guests. But the NAMI organization basically is affiliated with the National Alliance of Mental Health. They're a grassroots self-help volunteer organization, a nonprofit. They provide education, support, and advocacy for families and their loved ones dealing with mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety disorders, and others. They were founded in Los Angeles in 2003. They provide education and service about severe brain disorder. They support increased funding for research and advocates for adequate health insurance, housing, rehabilitation, and jobs for the serious psychiatric illnesses in our community. They provide a significant service in the 8th District, primarily in the Leimert Park area, and so we wanted to bring them in to honor them during this month also. And so, in behalf of the Los Angeles City Council, we'd like to present this. Come on over here. Yes. And say thank you for the work that you're doing and the work you're going to do.
Yes, and my name is Madeline Cobb, and
Just a minute. Let me orchestrate this.
Oh, come on.
Okay, now I will introduce you. Now I'll ask Madeline Cobb Brown to come up and make some comments.
Oh, okay. Yes. Welcome, good morning, and thank you, Bernard Parks, Councilman Member Bernard Parks. And once again, my name is Madeline Cobb, and I'm a board member for the National Alliance of Mental Illness for the Urban Los Angeles affiliate. And we are located in the Leimert Park area, an area that is a diverse community of many ethnic groups, and I want to thank you again for recognizing Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm going to also introduce Dr. Lynn Goodloe, who's going to speak to you a little bit about an upcoming event that we're going to be having.
Right. Thank you, good morning, and thank you again for this honor. This month, in May 2008, the House of Representatives passed a resolution for the B.B. Moore Campbell National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. B.B. Moore Campbell was one of the co-founders of our organization. She's a renowned author and mental health activist. And on July 15th, at the California African American Museum, we're celebrating the B.B. Moore Campbell Month. And that month celebrates awareness and notes the ongoing disparity and hoping in eliminating disparities in access and in the quality of health care for minorities all across the nation. So we would very much like you to support us and come out to the museum on July the 15th. And we have a flyer that we will leave. Thank you.
Lead them to the back. First group, we can get to the back. I'm going to follow them to the back.
Thank you very much. We'll grab our purses. Thank you very much.
All right, yes, you will. Thank you. Get your purses and we'll go in the back.
That's a safe place.
Get your purses and we'll go in the back.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Next presentation, Ms. Hahn.
Oh, okay. Where's Laura Pauling? Whoa. Come on up. Don't be a... Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Good. So you can introduce who's here with you when it comes your time.
Okay, good morning, colleagues. I'm very, very pleased today to be honoring a longtime fire department employee, my good friend, fire department Chief Lou Rapoli, who is retiring after 34 years of service to our city and to the department. And I really wanted to, I tried to cut some of this down because there was so much, but I think your history and your career for the city and for our fire department is so impressive that I really would like to read a lot of it because I think it speaks to who you are, your service, and all the great things that our fire department is involved in. Lou first joined our fire department in 1976 and worked as a firefighter, chief's aide, inspector, captain 1, captain 2, battalion chief, and then assistant chief. During your career, you were involved in a number of historic events, including the Occidental Towers high-rise fire, the SS Sanzania tank ship explosion, which everyone in the harbor area remembers where they were when that event happened. The Baldwin Hills brush fire. In addition, you responded to dozens of large-scale emergencies such as freeway incidents, large industrial and commercial fires, river rescues, urban search and rescue incidents, collapsed structures, mudslides, ship fires, and emergency medical incidents. As a captain, Lou was assigned to the Building Administration section where he was instrumental in obtaining the Naval Marine Reserve Center at no cost to the City of Los Angeles. Today, you will recognize that structure as the Los Angeles Fire Department's main training center, known as the Frank Hotchkiss Memorial Training Center, right behind Dodger Stadium. He was also the lead officer in line construction project in the construction projects of fire stations 111s, 112 in the harbor area, and fire station 28 in Porter Ranch. As a battalion chief, he commanded the North Hollywood area and the Harbor area. During his tenure, he wrote a monthly column, I didn't know this, in the Daily Breeze newspaper, keeping the public informed of the fire department's activities. In addition, he orchestrated community emergency response teams, CERT training, and certified over 350 community volunteers. Lou helped to secure the San Pedro Municipal Building's old Fire Station 36 to be resurrected as the new Harbor Area Fire Museum, memorializing the Harbor Fire Department's history. He was also instrumental in the creation of the Stancil G. Jones Fire Plaza, which honors the longest-serving firefighter in the nation. He served 55 years, which was amazing. On September 29, 2001, Lou organized a fundraiser for the fallen firefighters, the police officers of New York City, following our 9/11 terrorist attack, raising $131,000 in one day. As commander of the Community Liaison Section, Lou represented the fire department as the media spokesperson in all major fires, rescues, medical incidents, including the JetBlue aircraft incident, and was interviewed by all the local and national channels. As assistant chief, Lou has been in charge of the Harbor Division and organized the largest evacuation exercise in the city of Los Angeles, evacuating the Port of Los Angeles Administrative Building, the Port of Los Angeles High School, the San Pedro City Hall, the Maritime Museum, and the Fire Station 112. He was also in charge of Homeland Security and organized the Joint Tank Ship Inspection Program with the fire departments of the cities of Long Beach and Los Angeles, ensuring that all tank ships would be inspected upon their arrival at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And he also wrote the document Port of Los Angeles Emergency Operations Preparedness and Response Plan, a guideline for command officers to use, which involves significant marine and land incidents occurring in the cities of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Lou Rapoli is a great example of a true public servant. He's had an excellent career and has earned his retirement. Lou, I really want to thank you for everything that you've done. I know when you came down to the harbor area, it was my explicit wish that you would focus on an emergency preparedness and then a response to an emergency that would happen at the ports of Los Angeles or Long Beach. I still feel like we're very vulnerable down there. I feel better since this document has been written, and there is a framework and guideline for those to follow in the event of an emergency. I know that your wife Diana, your mother Mary, and your aunt Lucille are here with you today. They must be very proud of you. And you also have some of your former colleagues who are standing with you today to salute you and wish you well in your retirement. It's hard for me to believe that you're truly retired. You have been such a fixture in the fire department. You've been such a fixture in the community. And you've certainly been a fixture in my life. I consider you a friend, a colleague, and really wish you well in this next chapter of your life. Well done, Lou Rapoli.
Thank you very much.
And before we hear, I'd like to call on Councilmember Smith to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. President. As chairman of the Public Safety Committee, it's always a great pleasure of mine to honor those who have served us well. I've known Lou and his brother for decades as a member of this council, but also prior when I worked for Hal Burnson, who was Mr. Earthquake. And certainly the work that Lou did in that regard and preparing people for Los Angeles for future earthquakes will go on for decades after you've left here. And I think there's nothing more important than when you've served the public so well, but also left something so important that will benefit future generations. And what you did, one, in earthquake preparedness and just earthquake management, as well as just public safety is a great legacy, but also what you did down the harbor. The museum and the fire station down there, I wish every citizen in L.A. could go down and see that, and see fireboats down there and what our fire department does. I've taken a number of citizens down to the fireboat down there, and they come back and say it's the greatest tour they ever took. And so these are lasting things that will last for decades beyond your service here. We're very proud of you. I'm proud of you and your brother. Two guys who came into the city service, one in the police, one in the fire department, and I know the relationship that goes on there. It's a fun thing to watch. But both of you rose to the highest levels in both those departments because you're very capable, smart human beings and very dedicated to the people of L.A., both of you. And so, Lou, on your leaving, we just wish you the best in your retirement. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Councilman Smith, and Councilwoman Hahn. I appreciate your kind words as well. You've been a good friend and a mentor over the years, and a lot of these things in the harbor could have never taken place without your support, and we appreciate that. Honorable council members, I'm deeply humbled and privileged to be here this morning to receive this resolution. How do you sum up 34 years of service in the city of Los Angeles in a few minutes? You don't. This was not a job to me, nor my colleagues that are behind me. It's a lifetime commitment of service, of public safety to the citizens of Los Angeles, in which I'd like to think I made a small difference to some Angelenos. There's no greater reward than to preserve a human life, or to see the face of someone in which you save their property or their loved ones from danger. And I tell you that a firefighter never stands so tall until he bends down to help a child in need. Yes, there are still heroes today. You have a bunch of them right here behind me, and you saw a lot of them that were to my right earlier. It's the men and women serving in public safety across this great city and across this great nation, where they've taken an oath to serve, and if need be, willing and have laid down their life for another that they don't even know. No greater service, no greater life, no greater assurance to mankind to protect. In conclusion, in difficult, trying economic times, I appeal to this council and to the mayor's office to listen to the voice of public safety, for it's the lifeline to protect all Angelenos, in which we all have an obligation to protect. I thank you in allowing me to serve, and I look forward to a long and healthy retirement. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes. So on behalf of the entire city of Los Angeles, we wanted to give you an official resolution listing some of the highlights of your career, but more importantly, we hope that this just is a token of our deep gratitude to you and all the men and women who serve in the fire department, in the police department, and every area of public safety. Thanks for what you do. Without you, this would not be a city worth living in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. And while taking this photographs, Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Wesson moves and Mr. Smith seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right. Mr. Smith moves and Mr. Rosendahl seconds. Without objection, be approved. If we can just run through the agenda real quick.
Mr. President, items 1 through 3 are items noticed for public hearing. Item number 1 is a building and safety lien notice for public hearing. The department reports that it may be received and filed inasmuch as the lien has been paid.
Okay, we'll move to receive and file. There's no cards on 1 or 2. There are cards on 3, so we'll call that special. On on number 2, Mr. Rosendahl, this was the item I spoke about earlier in the week that I thought was on Wednesday's agenda.
It's for finding a public convenience of necessity. If there's no objection, we'll move that then.
Mr. President, item 2 is a PCN and Council District 11 notice for a public hearing. The recommendation is to grant the application.
Okay. We will open and close the public hearing. There's no cards. And Mr. Rosendahl, do you move to approve in the district? Okay. Mr. Rosendahl moves. We'll go ahead on receiving and filing and approving 1, and then approving 2. Let's open the roll on those 2 items. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items.
Item number 3 is an item notice for public hearing.
Yes, we'll call that special for cards from the public. Next items.
Items 4 through 8 are items for which public hearings have been held. No action is required on item number 4, and committee reports for items 6, 7, and 8 have been submitted and distributed to council. Items 7 and 8 do have cards. A public hearing has not been satisfied.
Okay. We will call 7 and 8 special for both cards, and Mr. Alacon on item number 8. No action on number 4, so that leaves 5 and 6. Anybody wishing to call this special?
Yeah, Mr. President, on item 6, I'd just like to move to substitute the CAO and the CLA report on file for the HCED committee recommendations, and of course ask for an aye vote.
So the CAO, CLA to replace the committee?
Yes.
Gotcha. Without objection, let's go ahead and on 5 and 6, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 9 through 15 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay. If there's no objection to consideration, we have those before us. We don't have cards on 9 and 15, but we do have on the rest. We'll call those special for cards from the public, and we'll close the public hearings on 9 and 15. Any members wishing to call either of those special? If not, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay. And those are approved. I'd like to call on Mr. Smith for our next presentation.
How you doing? Welcome. Well, thank you, Mr. President. You caught me off guard, but I'm ready to go. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to have a group of high school students here from the 12th District who really played a significant role in the city of Los Angeles recently. On February 26, 2010, the City Council, this council, approved 3 historical cultural monuments application landmarks in the San Fernando Valley that were prepared by high school students from the 12th Council District. The students are enrolled in Kennedy High School's Architectural Magnet Program, working in collaboration with the Los Angeles Conservancy, and I see Ken Bernstein here, and I thank him for coming as well. Their teacher and advisor is Aaron Kallenberg, who actually owns a historic cultural monument home in Granada Hills, in my district. Aaron runs the Architectural Magnet Program. Fewer than 10%, unfortunately, of the city's 1,000 historical cultural monuments are located in the San Fernando Valley. The projects that the students worked on were the Lancashire Reading Room, an octagonal Victorian house built in 1904 on the Lancashire Ranch, and now located behind the Pico Adobe in Mr. Alarcon's district, I believe. The Corbin Palms House, a ranch-style house in Woodland Hills, built in 1955 by William Cressell and Dan Palmer. The duo designed many modernist homes in the valley and Palm Springs. The Sepulveda Unitarian Universe Society Sanctuary, better known as the Onion Church in my district, designed by Nutra student Frank Ehrenthal in 1964. It became a renowned meeting place for Vietnam War protesters in the 1960s and early 70s. The Kennedy students also contributed significantly to the Historic Resources Survey work for the Balboa Highlands HPOZ, which was approved by this council in January of this year. Balboa Highlands is a collection of homes built in the early 1960s by modernist developer Joseph Eichler, better known just in our area as the Eichler Homes. They presented their own impressive PowerPoint presentation before the Cultural Heritage Commission on their monument nominations. This is a powerful demonstration on how young members of our community can work very productively in our community civic life. It is also a great example of some of the innovative methods and programs being used in some of our public schools. Programs like this give young people a great opportunity in choosing a successful career path. It also teaches them the value of history, culture, good planning, and good government, hard work, and most importantly for all of us, civic participation. We are very proud of what these young people accomplished in a very short time. I want to introduce the young people who participated in this magnet program, truly a unique one in the city of LA, and I hope it will be replicated many times throughout the valley and other parts of the city. Victoria Williams, raise your hand. I know a number of them are on vacation, but they came today. Darren Reyes, Martin Guzman Garcia, Irene Guzman Garcia, might be related. Sarah Giron, Guadalupe Mora, Nitsi Perez, there, Ashley Lieb, and Pablo Avila. Congratulations, all of you. You'll be receiving certificates from the city. It was a great program. I'd like to ask if Ken Bernstein would come up, and also if the teacher Aaron would please come up as well and say a few words about the program. Ken?
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. It's really my pleasure to have an opportunity to help honor these students from Kennedy High School this morning. As we move forward with our own city preservation program and survey our city's architectural heritage citywide for the first time, it's very important that we involve youth in this process, because it really is going to be our youth who will be the future stewards of our architectural heritage and our cultural heritage in this city. And so programs like this that involve youth in understanding historic preservation and urban planning are really important to the future of the city. And these are students who didn't just learn about history and historic preservation in the classroom. They actually went the next step and took action. They researched and prepared these nominations and presented them to the Cultural Heritage Commission. I will say, as the staff member for the commission, that their PowerPoint presentations and their oral presentations to our commission were more effective than most of the professional consultants that we see come before the commission. So they did an outstanding job, and were significantly responsible as well for the creation of that historic preservation overlay zone in their own community in Granada Hills. So thank you to all the students for getting involved, and we hope that you stay involved with historic preservation efforts in the future.
As a representative of John F. Kennedy High School's Architecture and Digital Arts Magnet in Granada Hills, I just want to say that I'm very proud of the work that the students did. I don't think they understand at this point in their lives the importance of what they've done, but in the years to come, they will recognize the work that they've done, and I do hope that they continue and become a part of their community and preserve old things for the future. It's part of what architecture is. You have to understand where we've come from in order to figure out where we're going. And the students have done an outstanding job, and give them lots of props for what they've done. Thank you.
I got an email last night from one of Kennedy High School's most famous graduates. Our city controller, Wendy Gruhl, wanted to thank me for bringing them here today, so I invited her to put her cheerleading outfit on to come. She declined. But anyway, Wendy Gruhl sends her best wishes as well, one of your most famous students. I want to just say, my son would probably say what you did was dope. I would say what you did was really cool. Mr. LeBon probably would have said it was really hip. Whatever the choice words are, I think what you accomplished was awesome, and it will go with you for the rest of your lives and your rest of your career, and you should be very proud of yourselves. It will carry on what you did for a long time. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming down.
Thank you very much. Before our next presentation, I wanted to welcome some special guests that are here visiting us. I know we have a number of flags that we have here in council chambers which reflect the history of the city of Los Angeles. We have, of course, the American flag and the Mexican flag, but two other the flags that are up here are, or three of the other ones, excuse me, are Spanish flags, and we have some great visitors that are here from Spain. Our hearts were broken when we can't root for the U.S. and for many people from Mexico, but now we are 100% behind Spain for the World Cup finals, And we have a delegation that is here in the front row, some senators and council people, and a great guest from Andorra as well, I understand. So, bienvenidos del pueblo de Los Ángeles, de Porciúncula, and I'd like to actually call on Councilmember Huizar to say a few words in Espanol.
Presidente, you said it well. You said it just what I was going to say. Bienvenidos a la ciudad de Los Ángeles de parte del Concilio y también del concejal Tom LaBodge, que trabaja con ustedes en España. Y aquí estamos celebrando con ustedes, ojalá en unas semanas también con el World Cup. Y aquí también vamos a estar celebrando. Bienvenidos a Los Ángeles y estamos aquí para servirles. Gracias.
Gracias y viva España. Suerte. With that, we'll go to our next presentation, and we do have I know some certificates for our visitors that Councilmember LaBonge prepared, so those should be coming shortly. And our next presentation is from Councilmember Huizar. I'd like to recognize him for our last presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And colleagues, I'm very happy. Well, that was the shortest presentation I ever made.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huizar.
Thank you for the extra time. I was going to ask you to turn the other way and still didn't notice the bell there. I'm very happy to stand here today with some individuals that give so much to their community, but we have here individuals who are part of our organization that continues to document the beauty that Eagle Rock is, the beauty that Eagle Rock was, and the beauty that Eagle Rock will be. I'm talking about the Eagle Rock Valley Historical Society. What's special about recognizing this group today in council is that next year, 2011, Eagle Rock community will celebrate its centennial celebration as a community in the city of Los Angeles. And we are thrilled that we have an organization such as the Eagle Rock Valley Historical Society that can remind us of what it was like in Eagle Rock 100 years ago. In Eagle Rock, we pride ourselves on a small town feel in a large metropolitan area. And if you look at the old pictures and you look at the old documents and you look at Eagle Rock today, yes, it's a bit more dense, but that local feeling is still there, and I want to thank this group for the work they do to continue to celebrate Eagle Rock and the great community that it is. As we celebrate the centennial next year, this group has been vital in planning the many activities that we will have next year throughout the year celebrating the centennial. So at this time, I want to present this wonderful group a certificate of appreciation from the City of Los Angeles, but I wanted to read off what this certificate says because it'll really give us a feel about what the group has been doing, and it gives us a feel about Eagle Rock as a community. And this is a beautiful city resolution that has the rock on it with the famous Eagle Rock, as it was called. And let me start reading. The Eagle Rock Valley Historical Society is a 501c3 charitable organization dedicated to the preservation of Eagle Rock's history, providing information to the public about our history, and the preservation of Eagle Rock landmarks. And whereas they are not affiliated with any other organization, but are happy to collaborate in any efforts which further their objectives, and whereas the preservation and organization of the archives left to them by the citizens of Eagle Rock and their predecessors have formed the core of their work for the past few years, and whereas the emergence of new standards for preservation and new means of dissemination of historic materials have motivated them to perform a complete inventory and archival preservation effort on all materials in their possession, and whereas with the substantial progress of this effort, their focus is shifting to the acquisition of new information and making information more available, they are continuing an oral history program and increasing their efforts to acquire visual and written materials from the present and former residents of their town. And whereas digital databases of their archives and historic buildings and institutions are growing and evolving, their website offers short histories of their town and biographies, its prominent citizens, along with a selection of their photographs. And whereas many of their photographs have been published in the recent Arcadia Pictorial History of Eagle Rock by the President Eric Warren, They are collaborating with Highland Park Heritage Trust and Occidental College to properly preserve and make accessible the Northeast Newspapers Archive, which was given to them by Oren Asa, the former owner, and where it is hoped that this will be the first step in an ongoing project with the college to form a regional archival collaboration to gather the many materials of the area's rich history, which is currently ill-preserved and inaccessible. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by the adoption of this resolution, the Los Angeles City Council does hereby honors and congratulates the Eagle Rock Valley Historical Society for their invaluable dedication and commitment to the historical preservation and prosperity of the Eagle Rock community. Congratulations on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, and thank you for all the work you do. We have with us today a number of individuals. The person that's going to speak on behalf of the group is Fred Guapo. He is the Vice President, and then I'll be more than happy to introduce you to these wonderful group of residents after Mr. Guapo speaks. Mr. Guapo.
Thank you very much, Councilman Huizar. What I'd like to do is introduce just a few of our members. We have many members, and two of our members have written a book for the Arcadia book, also for the past amusement parks that were in Los Angeles, and that's Corey and Sarah Stargell. They're one of our members. And this is our past president, John Miller, as well as our other member here is Donna Guapo and Karen Warren, and her husband, who is the president of Eagle Rock Society, is Eric Warren, and he wrote a book about Eagle Rock. And we're having our 100-year anniversary next year. Everyone in the chamber is invited. There's going to be all through the year, there's going to be many different events. So please look at our website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guapo. And in a city where we are sometimes forgetting our history and not preserving as much as we should, I know that Eagle Rock is doing all it can to preserve its history. Oral, written documents, any which way can be made. Thank you very much. This is so important so that future generations do not forget where we came from, who we are, and where we've been. And we will realize that the same issues we had then, we have today, we probably will have in the future. And last but not least, I look forward to doing a time capsule sometime during the centennial so that 100 years from now, people could feel that, bring that out, and see what it was like in 2011 in Eagle Rock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations. We'll now move from our presentations to our general public comment. Arnold Sachs is our first speaker. He'll be followed by Ankur Patel, and after that is David Hernandez. We have 2 minutes per speaker, and there's a clock to help guide your timing. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. It seems the DWP has made the news again regarding a vital meeting that was missed by the chairperson of the DWP. And this after being accorded the position, having hearings in City Council where he beat the phrase transparency to death. He said it so many times I was thinking of calling the ASPCA for cruelty to animals. He beat that horse to death. He hasn't had a policy yet, and we already have a problem with transparency. Yes, he was invited to the meeting. No, he didn't. No, he said he sent a message that he wasn't going to make the meeting. Yes or no? You decide. Already not one policy implemented, and we already have a problem with his so-called transparency. Now, the city controller mentioned that we're $260,000 in the red from unpaid parking fines and fees. Yet, this has been going on for years. It's lucky for us we have so many new city council members that they haven't had an opportunity to create a policy on how to go about handling this debt collection that would have helped to forestall the closing of the libraries, the laying off the park workers, and other things that happen to the public in lieu of having the funds that maybe an older sitting city council would have established a policy on. And one other thing, Councilman Smith, you said you didn't want to brag, you didn't want to claim that I told you so regarding the DWP and its hearings that were held here regarding the rationing. Believe me, the public didn't want to hear you either. Thank you for your time, answers, and attention.
Thank you. Ankar Patel is our next speaker, then David Hernandez will follow him. Good morning.
Good morning. So, a concerned citizen like myself, who came to each council meeting for a month, say maybe March to April, could have gone off to China, talked to university students over there on politics and revolution, on the huge gap between wealthy and poor, and I could have come back hoping there was some progress. I did. I was hoping that maybe that $1 billion slush fund that you uncovered during the budget hearings of the DWP, oh no, they don't touch it. Except for 3 months ago, we withdrew $25 million. No, we don't touch it, except for when we need it. Councilman Parks, you were very much on top of that during the budget hearing. I remember. You kept on needling them. What happened to that $1 billion slush fund? Can I ask questions? Will you give me answers to questions if I ask them to you? What is your salary? What is the city councilman's salary? It's $178,000 in change. $178,000 in change. Now, how about this for a motion? Councilman Krikorian, Koretz, I appreciate you guys, because you guys sit, you pay attention, and honestly, it looks like you guys come. Councilman Rosendahl, you give me hugs. I really appreciate you. Councilman Parks, I know you pay attention. I know you pay attention. And the rest of you guys that are here, you know, we notice people don't come and people come. So why do I suggest $156,000 a year as your salary? It's divisible by both 12 and 52. We know you are getting $3,000 a week. $3,000 a week. We know you are getting $13,000 a month. $13,000 a month to miss how many days of being here? How many days? Do we even know? Is there some sheet that keeps track of your... Anyway, I'm behind you guys. I want to work with you guys. The people aren't stupid. Watering your lawn? You talked about watering your lawn for an hour and a half. You had the Dean of Engineering of USC, and you asked him 2 questions. He spoke for 5 minutes.
If you could please refrain from hitting the podium. Thank you.
So you had the Dean of Engineering of USC.
Thank you.
Talking about water and carbon.
And we have to stay as even as possible, so... Thank you. Mr. Hernandez is our next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Patel. Antonio Ramirez will be our next speaker.
Good morning, council members. And this is an appropriate day where we honored the work that our men and women in law enforcement did with not only the Los Angeles Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. I saw members of the Highway Patrol here. And, you know, the rule of law is really important. And today I'm coming here because I'm launching a new effort that I hope that we can work together on. This is an issue that I have been studying for about 7 years, and I've seen the abuses only get worse. And it has to do with the county and the state's penalty assessments that are added on to traffic fines. They are now at 227%. And anyone who has received a traffic ticket and has gone to court in the county of Los Angeles and pleads either guilty or no contest gets introduced to the 227% penalty assessment. That is clearly a violation of the most sacred law of the United States, and that's the Constitution, the Eighth Amendment, which gives us protection against excessive fines. So I am now reaching out to the residents of Los Angeles. Anyone who has received a traffic violation in the past 7 years and has gone to court and has been subject to that penalty assessment, you can be a plaintiff in the case that we are moving forward against the county and the state, not the city. We've already had our challenges together, and that's in the past. But what I am announcing today is a campaign to define the reasonable penalty assessments that can be assigned and to eliminate those that violate the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution. I will be back with more information on how you can learn more about the campaign. But for now, if you can go to David Hernandez on Facebook, you will find directions on how to get more information on stopping this abuse of your Eighth Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Antonia Ramirez is our next speaker. Antonia Ramirez? Is she in the audience? Antonia Ramirez? Oh, there she is. Come on forward.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a matter of principle. Freedom is not free. Freedom is not free. I was always taught to give credit where credit is rightfully due. Thus, I graciously and humbly honor and salute all of the United States military veterans and pilots. These enigmatic emblems of life, liberty, justice, freedom, the right to one's own property without fear and intimidation, and the right to assert our First Amendment rights under the law are the life sacrifices made by these courageous and brave warriors of the immense and undeterred valor. Their frontline battles of impending doom with blood, sweat, and tears, but for many it is a loss of life. Hence, their blood sacrifices have assured us that these priceless and sacred liberties of justice, freedom, life, dignity, liberty, peace, love, and reverence for all humanity. I honor and salute the following: the United States Coast Guard, the United States Air Force, the United States military aviators, the United States Marine Corps, the United States Army, the United States Navy, the United States Navy SEALs, the United States National Guard, the Department of Defense, the top brass Pentagon officials, the Sheriff's Department pilots, the Police Department pilots, all commercial airline pilots, and my Gillespie Airfield pilot daredevils extraordinaire. They provide public safety. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, what's even more heinous and shocking is that these military veterans, who are not pussies, are ending up homeless and or in prison. It is unconscionable of what America has done and continues to do it. That is why America is paying for its crimes against humanity. Payback is a bitch. It always comes back to bite you. Lastly, we've encountered an obnoxious officer downstairs, Officer Casada. Te crees muy chingón. You got a chip on your shoulder attitude. You're not there to help the public. You don't belong there. If you don't like your job, get the hell out. And lastly, I want to say thank you, Mayor Kurt Pringle, for freedom of speech. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Walter Bechtel is our next speaker. After Walter Bechtel will be Michael Hubman.
Good morning. I wasn't going to say anything about this, but I noticed you're giving everybody a pat on the back here, and that's fine. The officers are arresting people, but I think you should be reminded about the fact that, whenever we're given one of these yellow slips after we report a crime and we're a victim of a crime, we're also given this pamphlet is known as the Victims' Bill of Rights, Morrissey's Law. And on that, it says that we are supposed to have restitution for the crimes that are committed against us, number 13, and there's a prompt return of our property. There's supposed to be a notice of parole procedures and other things like a notice of presence at public hearings. And when I told you guys about who's ripping off music and stuff like that, okay, fine, you can stop the gang members and you can stop the Sean Coombses, etc. That's fine, but none of you have told me of any meetings. You haven't remunerated me anything. And I just want you to understand, you can stand over here and laugh about all this, how you got away with just being quiet about it and stopping it. But if you don't remunerate the victims, that sends a very strong message to the gangs who were doing these sort of things and the mafia that you couldn't care less about the victims, and you're more on their side than the victim's side, and you are empowering them. And the next thing that's going to happen is just like what's happening down in Mexico. The gangs that you released from the prisons of California, the first thing the gang members did, they didn't go back to where they lived in California. They went back down to Mexico, and they proceeded to genocide entire communities and kill politicians. And I just think you need to understand that's what's going to happen if you don't start enforcing the Victims' Bill of Rights here.
Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. Michael Hubman is our next speaker. Good morning, Mr. Hubman.
Good morning. My name is Michael Hubman. I'm a human rights and homeless rights activist. Since the close down of the Town Avenue soup line, there has been about 3,000 missed meals. As of this evening, you can add to that another 840. Who gets the credit for this mean trick on the homeless people of Skid Row? The County Health Department was the agency that put the squeeze on the World Agape volunteers. Also on hand to witness the deed were the LAPD, Councilmember Perry's office, and the Central City East Association. A while ago, I was in Gladys Park. I was speaking to a lead officer with the LAPD. I was lamenting the close down of the Midnight Mission Mobile Kitchen program. He said, "We don't like outdoor feeding." Councilmember Perry is a shameless booster of Safer Cities Initiative. I refer to her testimony at the Police Commission hearing on Safer Cities Initiative, where she likened Skid Row to Dante's Inferno. The Central City East Association, known to the homeless as the Red Shirts, is a quasi-official agency that gets theirs by assessing businesses in their area of operation. We can also look to the Police Commission hearing and the testimony of CCEA Director Estela Lopez at the same hearing. I remember her testimony being the most venomous of the day. I am confident that it was the latter three agencies acting in concert that initiated the complaint to the County Environmental Health Department. It was likely cooked up at a Safer Cities Initiative meeting. After all, it only takes one anonymous call to the health department on a given day to put down any one of hundreds of hot dog carts. The difference is the Town Avenue soup line was no hot dog cart. This was a volunteer organization providing free service and sustaining the people of Skid Row. Shame.
Thank you, Mr. Hubman. We'll go to the items now that are called special. Starting with item number 3, and I know there's been some conversation with the folks that are here on item number 3 about, I think, 4 or 5 folks speaking, but I'd like to read everybody's name in the record who's taken the time to be here. So I'll read those names of folks who won't be speaking, and then we'll hear from Allison Burns as our first speaker, but I do want to mention these other names as well. Michael Martins, Christopher Wilson, Samuel J. Parsons, Daniel Clinton Barnett, sorry, I can't quite read. I think it's Byron, sorry. Byron Geeson Daniel, Carlton Smith, Francine Smith, Joe Turner, Deanne Haley, Kelvin Pilgrim, Catherine Lynn, Autumn Jackson, Clausette Smith, Antoine Brown, Mr. Rahman, Jonathan Finney, Marcella Rocket, Christopher Finney, Brittany Manigo, Gerald Taylor, George Gordon, James Allen, Christy Vasquez, Benjamin Gandara, Christopher Allen, Arthur Vasquez, Robert Biddles Jr., Brian Morast, Gary Gonzalez, Lakeisha Whetstone, Linda Thompson, and Sheena Allison. And now if I can ask Allison Burns to come forward, she'll be followed by David Carlett. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Allison Burns on behalf of Stanley Kramer and Kramer Metals. We object to the proposed Slauson Central project approvals before you today. First, let the record reflect that prior to this hearing, I handed to the clerk a copy of the July 9 objections that I'm holding up now from my co-counsel Robert Silverstein of the Silverstein Law Firm. The objection letter is approximately 80 pages in length, including exhibits. And it goes into a variety of ongoing legal violations in the proposed Slauson Central project and your approval process for that project before you today. As you know, Mr. Kramer and Kramer Metals have sued the city and the Community Redevelopment Agency regarding this project and have prevailed, including in their Brown Act lawsuit. That lawsuit caused the invalidation of all of the approvals that you made on this project 2 years ago. If you vote yes today, and in the process continue to violate the public and Mr. Kramer's rights, then I predict that once again we will find ourselves here in another 2 years following the next successful lawsuit. But rather than that, I respectfully ask that you carefully read the objections that you've been presented with, and then after you have read them, reject the requested project approvals that are before you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. David Carlett is our next speaker. Okay. Come on forward.
Hi.
What's your name? Jacqueline Sims?
Jacqueline Sims.
Okay, Jacqueline Sims will go next.
That's right. I'm here today.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone just so we can hear you well? Thank you so much.
I'm here today with All Children's First. I'm opposed to this project because it's been 10 years that this whole thing has been going on. And the amount of money that has been allocated or potentially allocated is just astronomical. I want you to see how many people here today feel as I do. Those who came with me today, would you please stand? Everybody who came with me today, would you please stand? I'm not a single voice here. There's more than 40 people here, and there was more who wanted to come that I had to turn down because we are tired in this community of being ignored. We have not been a part of the active participation in this project. $18 million kickback. Who heard of that? To an outside developer. We got developers. Don't we have the developers here in Los Angeles who could have done the same work and provide jobs for these young faces? These are young people. These are not old people that stood up. Because they're the ones who are being victimized. The amount of money that's being wasted in this project could have gone to help keep child care centers for this young man. Look at this face. His mother can't afford child care now because child care centers from the Department of Record and Parks are closed. These are child care centers that parents like this could take their children to so they could look for work. Look at it. This is the result of these kinds of approvals that you make. You don't look hard enough at what is costing our community. I'm asking you to reject this proposal. Let's start back again and let the city and the citizens be a part of it. Let these young people have a voice in what goes on into their communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David Carlett. And after that will be Michael Whetstone will follow.
Good morning. David Carlett on behalf of Stanley Kramer, the property owner who's been victimized by this process, and I've been asked to speak on his behalf today. You know, it occurred to me that it's been 40 years since I first walked into this chamber as a employee of the mayor at that time, Mayor Yorty. And sitting in your seat, Mr. Garcetti, was a champion of this city, Mr. Ferraro. And there were giants in this chamber like John Lindsay. And there are many great people in this room today who I know and I respect. And I know how difficult it is for you today to look at a proposal that one of your colleagues asks you to support in their district and look at it objectively on its merits and vote your conscience and not just to support your colleague regardless of whether it has any merits. This is a blatant example of government waste, unnecessary spending, and unfortunately a terrible crime against a property owner who came to this council, received approval to develop that property at no cost to the taxpayer for the exact same project that you're about to approve today at a cost of $18 million of taxpayer dollars because it's a sweetheart deal for an outside developer and some community supporters of a member of this council. It's a crime. It actually is a crime and should be investigated as to how $18 million of taxpayer dollars would go to do a development that would have otherwise already been built by private money and not cost the taxpayers a single penny. But unfortunately, that's not what you're faced with today. You're faced with either accepting this project and the cost to the taxpayer or rejecting it. And I know how hard it is to vote against it, so it would be nice if at least some of you today could at least abstain to show your objection to this kind of inside deals by members of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Michael Whetstone is our next speaker. And then Noreen McClendon will be our last speaker after Mr. Whetstone.
How you doing?
I'm on here. Hello?
Hello.
I'm on here on behalf of
morning.
Fred Alice Harris. How you doing?
Good. Yourself?
I am sorry that I could not be with you today to personally express my opposition to the motion before you to approve another sweetheart deal at the expense of the taxpayer of the city. As a resident of South Central and an advocate for the poor and forgotten in our community, for many years I must be heard when I see injustice. Today you are considering the approval of a multi-million-dollar giveaway of precious taxpayer dollars to a special interest group, while at the same time child care centers in our community have been closed for lack of money in the city budget. Approval of the Slauson Central Retail Development Project proposed by Regency Realty Incorporated, a corporation based in Jacksonville, Florida, and a community group from South Central Los Angeles, is nothing but a free handout of taxpayer money. I would like the members of the City Council to tell me today before you approve this project why it is better to give millions of taxpayer dollars to an out-of-state developer and an inexperienced and unsuccessful community group that has no experience building or running a shopping center that has allowed the original property owners to build the same shopping center at no expense to the taxpayer. It is well known that the community group has partnered with this developer of this project, was recently caught double charges at a state agency that the city of Los Angeles for doing the same thing, work on soccer field project, which to this day has not been built. And there is no housing project on Central Avenue, whereas the same community group has spent 10 years working with the CRA on a housing project where the CRA has already converted one loan to give away grant, and they are currently in default on several project loans with the city and CRA. What makes any of you think this community group would do any better with the project before you today than it has been in the past in the city council? Give this project back to the city original owners and let them build a shopping center without taxpayer money and take the millions of dollars you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And our last speaker is Noreen McClendon. Very good morning.
My name is Noreen McClendon. I'm the Executive Director of Concerned Citizens of South Central Los Angeles. We are the nonprofit organization or the community group that was just referred to. Concerned Citizens of South Central Los Angeles has developed over 700 units of affordable housing. We are in the process of developing soccer fields. The gentleman that just read that statement was handed that statement by an attorney for Stanley Kramer when he walked into the door. Jackie Sims used to be a member of the Watts Neighborhood Council. Those people who are here, most of them are from the Watts area, which is far south of Slauson and Central. These people were being paid. Jackie Sims has been paid, and I don't know whether Sweet Alice is being paid or not, but I do know that Jackie was being paid by Armand Gabay. That was, and I have proof of that. The reality is that my community, the Vernon Central community, has been working on this shopping center. They requested this shopping center more than 20 years ago. Through a series of technical errors made through staff and other things, noticing objections and noticing rules, Brown Act things, Stanley Kramer has prevailed on small lawsuits, but none of it has ever taken this project out of the realm of possibility. And I say to you today, my community is asking for what the Watts community already has: a supermarket, a drugstore, a sit-down restaurant, retail facilities, and our ability to manage properties is clear. We've received awards for our management of property. So the reality is that these are people. Stanley Kramer was supposed to be a partner in this deal, and Stanley Kramer wanted us to give his son an $80,000 a year job that he was not qualified for, get all the public subsidy that we can, and then turn this project over to him 3 years later. And when I told him, when our organization said we would not participate in anything like that, he began to oppose the project. He was able to respond to an RFP. I got 2 sentences and I'll be done. He was able to respond to an RFP. He submitted 6 pages. We submitted it and won. This is no sweetheart deal. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. We'll never get repaid for all the staff time, heart, and energy we put into this project. So I urge you to approve our project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's presence here today. And with that, are there any members who wish to be heard on this? If not, please prepare the roll. Mr. Rosendahl?
Anybody here from city staff who can give us some insight, objective insight?
I believe CRA staff is here. Is that correct?
What this is about?
Come forward.
Good morning. Fill us in. We just heard public. I've never heard about this issue. I don't know a thing about it. Lay it out for us, please.
Okay, I'm Jenny Scanlon. I'm a project manager with the Community Redevelopment Agency of Los Angeles. I'm the project manager on this particular project. This is actually a project that the council has taken a number of actions on in the past, and due to some litigation as it related to the last action that council took supporting this project, we had to come back to you with the amended and restated disposition and development agreement. The project itself is approximately a little under 80,000 square feet of retail that will be built at the corner of Slauson and Central in Council District 9. The project really provides a great service to the community in terms of the retail that will be there. We're going to have a full-service supermarket. We have a CVS. Both the supermarket and the CVS have already signed leases to go into the site. We have, in addition to that, about 11,000 square feet of shop space. We're hoping to get a sit-down restaurant and or a small bank into the complex. As part of the community benefits attached to this project, all of the major providers, such as Northgate Gonzalez and CVS, will be providing living wage jobs, and we expect to get over 300 jobs for the community in this one particular project. I think the issue at hand is that in order to build this project, the agency had to purchase property. There were two property owners that owned about 6.5 acres of property the agency was looking at for the development. At least one of those property owners had an opportunity to respond to a statement of interest in an RFP many years ago when we began developing this project. That owner's response was considered to be inadequate, and so we found an outside developer, Regency Centers, who has a very long history of developing very similar centers, not only in California but throughout the country. They partnered with a local nonprofit, came in with a very good proposal, and they were selected to develop the site. We have underwritten their proposal a number of times. We have had outside consultants underwrite that proposal. There is no enrichment of any developer in this project. The developer is receiving what we consider to be an adequate standard of return for the amount of risk that they're taking. This is a project that has taken a number of years for us to develop because we did not have property owners who were willing to sell to the agency. The agency did have to condemn both properties in order to build this project. And so we've had some extensive litigation with those property owners over the right to take. That has really delayed the project from getting started. But at this point, and the properties are contaminated industrial properties. At this point, we've done all of our environmental studies. We are prepared to move forward with the construction of the site. The developer is ready to move forward with construction. We have gotten most of our approvals through DTSC to begin the remediation. So really what the community is going to get here is a wonderful reuse of an industrial site that will provide them with the retail services they need in what is considered a food desert. So that's just sort of a general overview. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you might have.
Was there anything from the public comment, because we're listening to public comment, that you want to respond to that helps us clarify what we heard from them?
I think that I can understand that the community is concerned that this project has taken the amount of time that it has taken. I think we can all have a different perspective on why that delay has occurred. I think the agency's perspective is that the prior property owners have used their rights through the court process to sue the agency and to litigate against the project. So there has been a number of delays, and I think that frustrates the community when they were told 6 years ago that they were going to get a retail complex there. I understand also that in South Los Angeles, we have a very tight budget in terms of the amount of tax increment and dollars that the city can spend, and so people want to see that used appropriately, and I just want to let the community know that the agency, as its steward of these funds, is very protective of them, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that that any money that the agency and or the city has to put in is an absolute required contribution to the project. We can't see this project moving forward without our contributions, and we believe that they are adequate, and again, we are not in the position of enriching a developer here.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing with us the facts. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. If there are no other further questions from members of the council, it's now time for a vote on the report before us. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. Next item, we'll go forthwith on that. Next item called special, please.
Mr. President, that would bring us to item number 7, called special for cards.
Okay. Item number 7 is next before us. Sankar Patel, if you'd like to come forward on number 7.
That was pretty typical, wasn't it? A lot of people find out something wrong is going on in the community. They come last minute over here. They make their points. You guys are like, I didn't know about this. And then you continue with it. And then, okay, yes, right? I still don't know what's going on. I was trying to pay attention. She came up here and gave you some...
Sorry, if we could, we unfortunately can't comment by the Brown Act on other items, but number 7.
So a lot of this has to go with where is our money going? We know some of our money is going to you in your salaries. We know a lot of our money is going to the CRA to do what they want with. Last time during the budget meetings, the CRA came up here and didn't know how many council districts they were in. They didn't know how many council districts they had projects in. I mean, we still have billion-dollar slush funds. We still have a government that doesn't work. They didn't know how many districts they were working in, and yet we're going to continue to give them money. We're going to continue to give them money on what? Public transportation. Again, I take public transportation. I came out here from Chatsworth. I was on the 3 buses, on the 2 buses in the subway, on my way here. And the reason I have to do that is because LA DOT and the MTA don't work together. Right? They don't work together. Just like you guys don't work with the people. Just like the mayor doesn't work with you. It's the same issue in all these different governmental organizations, different parts. The LA DOT and MTA are working in competition with each other. I have a system that would work in the San Fernando Valley. A bus system that would use less buses to get more people in more places. But no, the MTA and the LA DOT don't work together. They don't sit down and draw out routes that are beneficial to all the riders. They sit down and say, which routes are going to make me most money? And clearly, that's how this whole thing is going, right? Let's make more money. Let's print this stuff. Let's print this stuff. Well, if you don't want any money, I would love to see you guys actually take up that reduction. Not you guys, but the whole system. Right? The CRA, you know, you guys don't like this. I've heard you guys speak ill about this branch, whatever, before. You guys have to take action.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. With that, we'll close the public hearing, and if no members wish to be heard on this, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 8, called special for cards. There is an amending motion, 8A, that has been circulated.
Okay. Vanessa May is our first speaker, and after that is Seal Borman. Very good morning. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it.
Quite welcome. Honorable council members, my name is Vanessa May. I'm a resident of CD7. I would like to thank Councilman Awar Khan for at least considering what we put forth today. And I'd like to say, please do expand the enterprise zone. There are many areas in the city that do need revitalization. Thank you so very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Ms. May. Is it Seal? Did I get that right, or did I pronounce it correct? Is it Seal? Okay. And then after that, we'll get Linda Hornick. Very good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to come together and address you this morning. And as Vanessa said, I think in our part of Lakeview Terrace, my name is Seal Borman, and I live in Lakeview Terrace, and I'm looking forward to the enterprise zone being extended to take care of areas of our community that really do need to be revitalized. And thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Linda Hornick is our next speaker, and after that is Arnold Sachs.
Good morning. I'm also a resident of Lakeview Terrace, and I am here in hopes of pointing out the shopping center on Foothill Boulevard as an area that really needs to be included in enterprise zone. It's already in a CRA. Multifamily housing has gone on all around it, but the services have never been upgraded. So we have a demand for banking, postal services, food services. However, everyone must go to Sunland or to Sylmar. So I urge that it be included as part of the enterprise zone extension and the services uplifted. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that is Ankur Patel.
Thank you again, Arnold Sachs. I just brought out, I saved this article because I know you've had numerous items regarding enterprise zones on your agendas. This is from the Daily Breeze, Wednesday, June 30th. And it's a fight over enterprise zones moved to new arena. And this writer, Dan Walters, he writes for the Sacramento Bee. He writes in his column that the Public Policy Institute of California, in an exhaustive study of enterprise zones, declared that despite their cost, they generate no statistically significant effect on the employment. He further goes on to say that the legislator's budget analyst has described enterprise zones as ineffective and recommended that they be eliminated. He further goes on to say that a comprehensive review of all tax loopholes, closing those that aren't earning their keep and using the revenue gains to expand programs that help the kids would be a better use than creating enterprise zones. I'm just bringing this up because I know you've had it, like I said, several times on your agenda. So if this Public Policy Institute of California and the legislator's budget analysts both claim that enterprise zones have some form of ineffectiveness to them, shouldn't they be at least heeded the thinnest bit of a cord? Maybe you might consider that, I don't know. But at least it's a voice is coming from somebody just relaying information from Sacramento. Thank you for your time, answers, and attention.
Thank you. Ankur Patel.
I'm just going to use 1 minute for this one. But this is another project where you're going to have a lot of money distributed to somebody. Let's find out who that somebody is. Let's put somebody that reports back to you guys. You know, tell them to report back to you every week or every month on where the money is, who's going to, and all that. That's the problem with all these projects, right? These enterprise zones. You don't know where the money's going to, who is going to. And if it's $1 million project, you could hire me for $10 an hour. You can hire somebody real cheap to come in and tell you what's going on in that project. This much money came into my office this day, and then I gave it to this person. That way you guys know where the money is. You guys know what licenses need to be filled out. You guys have no clue what's going on. You guys have no clue what's going on in the city. Neither do I. And that's part of the problem. It's hard to find out what's going on. It's hard, right? The DWP's budget is still a joke, and that's another issue. I tried going through that, same thing as before. And we want to work with you. You have the people on your side. I still have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. That will close our public comment. Mr. Alico?
Yes, council members, I rise to offer a friendly amendment. In fact, Mr. Sachs is correct. The state has had long-standing debates on this issue. When I chaired the Housing Committee for the Senate, I actually had enterprise zones in my bailiwick. So what I can tell you is it's controversial because the state is looking at it at all the enterprise zones in the state, and they're looking at the totality of it rather than our position, which is that in Los Angeles we have very effectively use the enterprise zones. With regard to the record keeping, our Community Development Department keeps very close tabs of who is getting the credit, and I can tell you that 83 businesses in my district have taken advantage of the credits that have provided more jobs to our community as a result. This particular motion is we found more capacity in the enterprise zone, so we're going to apply to the state to expand the enterprise zone benefits. And because this came to my office's attention subsequent to Mr. Smith's motion, we haven't had really any time at all to do even We've done a preliminary analysis, but it's very vague, and we want to be able to look at other areas. So I've written an amendment that would allow me to work with CDD to identify which areas we want to have the enterprise zone expanded to. And I do want to say for Lakeview Terrace, I have absolutely every intention of including the portion that includes the shopping center on Foothill Boulevard. That, in fact, is adjacent to the current enterprise zone, and it's very consistent with the goals. But we are looking at the Sylmar area to see where else we might expand the enterprise zone, and that's where I need a little more time to do a better job. So this is a friendly amendment. It allows us to move forward with the application in approximately a week or two. But in that week or two, I'll be working with CDD to hone in on the areas in my district that we'd like to include. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no objection, we'll accept 8A as friendly. Mr. Okorian.
Well, I think Mr. Alarcon summed up some of the controversies very well, and the reasons that some enterprise zones have worked very effectively while some less so. And it does require the concerted attention, I think, of council districts and this council to make sure that the enterprise zones that we select are appropriate and are effective. And I know some of the communities that Mr. Alarcon and I jointly represent, like Sun Valley, are among those that the enterprise zone program could very much make a difference in the transformation of those communities. And so I'd like to offer as a friendly amendment to motion 8A the inclusion of Council District 2 as well in the consultation regarding potential expansions of the areas, because I think there are areas around Sherman Way and Van Owen and other areas there where we should work in collaboration to try to find an expansion of that zone. So, Mr. Alarcon, if you would, I'd like to include Council District 2 in that motion as well.
Okay, without objection.
Thank you.
We'll include that. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 10, called Special for Cards.
Okay, Mr. Patel, item number 10.
Very similar to what's been going on. This company comes out, Powerline Control Systems, $450,000 contract. Where is that money exactly going to be used? We just need to have one person follow up on it. One person ask a few questions about where is that money going. I'll ask those questions. Just point me to the person that I can ask those questions to. I mean, that's all it comes down to, right? We know where the money is. Actually, I guess we don't, because it's right here.
Yeah, there's supporting material if you want on any of these. There's actually detailed reports on this. They're available for the public.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Mr. Patel, I was trying to help you out, okay?
But you know what I'm trying to say here. It's not easy to access. It's not made public right away. When it affects people, that's when they pay attention. And by then, it's too late, because as we've seen, the council acts very slow. So what's going on with the 3 days versus 2 days, right? Is that on agenda? Did the DBP general managers pick it up? You know, that kind of stuff. All right, 1 minute.
That will close our public comment on that item. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
I usually say at the beginning of the meeting, but while any issues come through, not just here at council at the last minute, but through committee and the hearings that are held, all those materials are available to the public. They're available in person if you don't have the internet, but also directly from any of our agendas. You can now click on all the supporting materials that we read, that the community and the parties that are involved read. This is governed by both federal law in this case as well as our state and local laws, but that is made available as soon as it's made available to us, to the public as well. And that's at lacity.org. If we can go to the next item called special, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 11, called special for cards.
Okay, David Roberts is our first speaker on item 11, and after that we'll hear from Jeff Rudolph. Good to see you, and thank you for your patience.
Good morning. David Roberts with USC. I'm going to read a few excerpts from a letter that was signed by Dean Yanis Yortsis, the Dean of the School of Engineering here at USC. We believe that the California Science Center would be an ideal location to site one of the 3 shuttle orbiters after the final flight of the Endeavour, based on its location with Los Angeles' urban core and its award-winning science, programming, and displays. The California Science Center attracts a geographic, racial, and socioeconomic diverse population of 1.4 million guests each year, including 360,000 school children. It brings together children and families to experience hands-on science learning and supports formal classroom training for teachers and their students. Here at USC, we share the California Science Center's belief that one of our core missions is to excite young students about science and engineering. Under the leadership of Larry Lim, our director for pre-college programs, the Viterbi School of Engineering runs MESA, the Mathematics, Engineering, Science Achievement program, as well as Mission Science. These programs serve more than 1,500 middle school students in 30 schools across the city. The program and displays offered at the California Science Center enhance our MESA and Mission Science program. We are very excited about the possibility of NASA placing an orbiter at the California Science Center. It will undoubtedly stir excitement and provide another compelling attraction for millions of visitors along the Figueroa corridor. We cannot underestimate the wow factor and its ramifications. Viewing a space shuttle in person could stoke the educational curiosity for a young student, inspire him or her to pursue an education in math, science, or engineering. The opportunity to reach millions of annual visitors and hundreds of thousands of young, impressionable students is compelling. We hope that NASA shares this vision and sees the wisdom of placing an orbiter at the California Science Center. USC joins the Los Angeles City Council in support of this worthwhile effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I'm glad you had a good job. Mr. Rudolph.
Thank you. Jeff Rudolph, President and CEO of the California Science Center, and I thank you for your consideration of support of our proposal. As indicated in your materials, NASA is planning to retire the 3 shuttle orbiters after the final flight of the Endeavour at the end of this year or early next year. Over the past couple of years, they've been soliciting proposals for places to display these after their retirement. We believe strongly that California, as the home of the shuttle, and Los Angeles more specifically, should have one of the 3 orbiters. We believe we're the best positioned place in California to display the orbiter. Most attended museum in Southern California, one of the most attended in the nation, known for our diverse audience, for our strong commitment to science, technology, math, and engineering education, and to our links with the formal school system, with the Science Center School on campus, and working closely with schools throughout the region. We have the strong support of California's congressional delegation, with about 40 members of the delegation supporting us, and would very much appreciate the City Council support and support of our effort to get the shuttle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rudolph. Appreciate it very much. And I said to you about a week ago, the engines for those shuttles were built in Mr. Zines' my district, so thank you very much for being here. Mr. Parks.
President, colleagues, today we want to do I think a major public service to our community to request that NASA consider the Science Center as the proper location for one of the retired shuttles. We have given to you a copy of a letter composed by Diane Watson, and it appears that every a member of the California delegation has signed it. We also have a letter from the Memorial Coliseum and the letter that Mr. Roberts just articulated from the USC. We'd ask that we move this motion forward. We would want to get into the discussion and certainly believe it would be a major enhancement for Exposition Park in general, for the Science Center specifically, and also the awareness that we have a science school also in Exposition Park. So it would be an outstanding exhibit that would go hand in hand with that whole cultural center in that area. And also we have one of the greatest science departments in universities across the street at USC. So I'd ask for an aye vote, and that we ask Mr. Charles Bolden, the NASA administrator, to take this proposal very seriously and to one of those 3 retired shuttles, that we get one in California, but specifically at the California Science Center.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. That concludes our speaker queue. We will proceed to vote. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That passes. Thank you very much. Next item.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 12, called Special for Cards.
Mr. Arnold Sachs.
Thank you again. Arnold Sachs. This is related to street furniture revenue fund for transit-related projects. So I'm concerned here because every district we know has these street revenue funds. 100,000 per district is 1.5 million for the city. But just exactly in each district, what can you get? I know that when you had budget discussions, there were discussions regarding eliminating the city's repairing of sidewalks and having either businesses or the private homeowners fix the sidewalks. So if that work is done, then that would eliminate the sidewalk projects. And the accessibility part for maybe wheelchair access on curbs, that's very important, and I'm 100% behind that. But for $100,000, just how many curbs could you do? Could you do one intersection? That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 curbs that would have to be changed to allow wheelchair access. 8 curbs changed, that's one intersection. That's about right for $100,000 at the rate of pay that's going out to in today's market. So exactly what happens with this money? Where does it go? What is it used for? It just seems so out of place. Every other month there's an item regarding street furniture. And let's not forget, I understand that one of the council members actually used street furniture money to pay for her staff, a new staff member. Thank you again.
Thank you. That concludes the speaker queue. If we'd open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That passes. Next item.
Item number 13, called Special for Cards.
Mr. Ankur Patel, excuse me.
Pass.
Okay, that ends the speaker queue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That passes. Next item.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 14, called Special for Cards.
Okay. Mr. Arnold Sachs. Mr. Sachs, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. The renovation of Barnsdall, I appreciate the fact that you want to do this work. But here's a concern, because part of the budget discussions were going on regarding the elimination of personnel to act as docents at these city facilities. I know that Ms. Hahn was concerned about the Warner Theater that was supposed to close because personnel was being eliminated. So by renovating the Barnsdall Park, will you have the personnel to man it? Right now, you open up a brand new police station, yet the jail facilities are closed because you don't have the personnel to staff it. So where does that leave the city public and these renovation projects? without the staffing. This is just like MTA, where they create projects, but then they don't have staff to man it. This happens over and over again. Let's consider the whole situation before you act.
Thank you, Scott Crawford.
Hi, I'm Scott Crawford. I'm currently the president of the Friends of Hollyhock House, and I'm here to gratefully thank you. And I represent Hollyhock House and the architectural community, and we're really grateful that you're considering again step 3 for the restoration of Hollyhock House. You know, just to keep you up to date on what's going on in Hollyhock House, we at Friends of Hollyhock House are starting a new division which will be restoring the gardens of Hollyhock House, and we're going to be doing it all on a volunteer basis. However, we need the support of many people, including the staff members of the park, to be more proactive and really work with our board to succeed. There have been many times that's not happened and projects have fallen flat. I believe we need to take every opportunity to work together on these issues. I believe that it would be a great step in our success if we could somehow bridge that gap that's currently missing between some of the staff members and the board. Thank you for considering this.
Thank you very much. That completes the speaker queue. Seeing no other speakers, please open the roll. Time up. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. I just want to thank Scott for his words, and this has been a very exciting time, I think, a very nervous time in some ways, but a very exciting time to see what's happening up at Barnsdall, where we have the most vigorous public arts program in the city. On top of that, a great municipal art gallery and a theater, but Hollyhock House is where it all started. And Hollyhock House, we've gone very aggressively through the years. The state make sure we have the retrofitting that we need, and we've had a tremendous amount of supporters, Mr. Crawford and others, who have devoted their time, their money, their attention to what too few Angelenos still know is there. And there's a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening in the next few months, I think, bringing together all the folks that are up there to not only say, hey, we're now open for business and we have a continuing great home and galleries and facilities, but what does the future look like, and how do we get every Angeleno to know that it's there? Because just like Watts Towers, I mean, these are two twin pillars of great public assets for living art and living art programs, and the legacy certainly of Frank Lloyd Wright and the importance of LA in modern architecture is exemplified up there. So I absolutely support this, and thank you so much, Scott, to you and everybody else who's been working on this.
And we also have Mr. LaBonge now.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. And Mr. Garcetti, I join with you. It's so important that Barnsdall gets the boost that it needs that Eileen Barnsdall first put to the city when she processed that donation of that land. So, Mr. Crawford, you've always been a champion for this. You're also a neighborhood leader. Thanks for being here. Mr. Garcetti, we're all behind you 1,000%.
Thank you. How's jury duty?
They haven't picked me yet.
All right. Then it's going well.
And it's amazing what the citizens say. Can't you get off? I said no. and people still call you Gil.
All right.
But they always know you as Janice.
They call that guy back there Eric. With that, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right. That is approved. Next order of business.
Mr. President, there has been a request to send items 3 and 10 forthwith.
All right, let's send both those forthwith without objection. Next order of business.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
All right, any announcements, colleagues? Any announcements? Mr. Parks and I are going to be having Mr. Parks, why don't you tell them about it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We have a number of things going on this weekend, but Saturday at 9:45 a.m. at 701 West 77th Street, there's going to be a foreclosure news conference to highlight the registry that was just implemented in this city for all foreclosed properties. Plus, as part of that ordinance, we now have a better system of making the Housing Department and DWP aware of foreclosures so that we do not turn off tenants' water and power bill because their landlord got foreclosed on. So there's a number of things in that ordinance. Also, just want to make the public aware that for this summer, we've had a great number of activities in the city parks. We started 3 summer night lights a couple of days ago at Van Ness, Harvard Park, and MLK. But there are many other free programs that the LA Park and Rec are advertising. There's a number of parks that give citywide free lunch and snacks. There's also Operation Splash in conjunction with Kaiser Hospital that extends hours throughout the city. And so we just encourage people to go to the website, laparks.org, and find out about all of these summer programs that are new. Also, just like to advise the public that on Sunday, one of our long-awaited programs in the sense of a grand opening to a 7-Eleven store is being converted. One of our old liquor stores that was a nuisance in the area, and that will be Sunday at 12 noon at 4051 Lemert Boulevard. And that's something that the community has been waiting for a long while and will be a major addition to the community. And then also just remind our neighbor councils that their Hyde Park neighbor councils meeting this weekend. And then finally, July 15th, we had the NAMI organization in today. They're going to have their annual event July 15th, 6 to 8:30 at the California African American Museum, in which they will be honoring a number of people, but it's also honoring the National Minority Mental Health Month.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two events this weekend I thought you might be excited about attending. One is the opening performance of Othello at the West LA Bandshell, Saturday and Sunday at 6 p.m. This is put together by the Shakespearean and Veterans, which is a nonprofit touring theater company that aims to empower, educate, and employ veterans through performing arts. Othello is proudly sponsored by my office, the West LA Neighborhood Council, the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, AMVETS of California, Metro Dax Foundation, the Dolores Restaurant, and other groups that have taken a major interest in it. So if you would like to see Shakespeare at his best with the veterans, 6 o'clock at the West LA Bandshell, which is right at there on Santa Monica Boulevard between Purdue and Corinth, where we have our office. The other event is bring the whole family to this one, okay, for sure. The third annual Venice Echo Fest. It's this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Come to the beach and participate in this. The third annual Venice Echo Fest, billed as Los Angeles' area's biggest free green festival, will feature over 150 eco-conscious and educational exhibitors. They will offer original products and services provided by local artists, Venetian artists and others, craftspeople and business people, and provide information about issues such as global warming, habitat destruction, depletion of resources, and toxic pollution of air, soil, and water. A variety of festivals will be held during the day, so when you go there, plan to hang out for hours. A cooperative community, an art exhibit, a health and fitness display at the world-famous Muscle Beach, an eco apparel area, an eco fashion show, an international vegetarian and vegan food court, skate park demonstrations, and an interactive children's and family art and play area. So we urge you all to come. Our DJ is going to be K Earth, a fellow by the name of Gary Bryan. He'll be the Grand Marshal. Tom LaBonge loves that. You see that? And then we'll have Angelica Houston there. We'll have Ed Bagley Jr. there. And Nick Nolte will be there. I'll be there.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
Tom LaBonge maybe. But please go to that at Venice Beach as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Very quickly, it's the Lotus Festival this weekend, too, the largest Asian Pacific Islander festival in L.A. at the Echo Park Lake. Mr. Reyes and myself and Mr. LaBonge and others will be there, so please join us on Saturday and Sunday for a great festival. And Montecito Heights is celebrating its centennial, and that'll happen tomorrow on Saturday afternoon. Come over to the Montecito Heights Recreation Center. Mr. Huizar and Mr. Reyes and myself will be there, and we look forward to seeing folks there. Any other announcements, colleagues? Mr. LaBonge?
I wish Orange County and the Angels well as they host the National League's All-Star Game next Tuesday evening. There's a fan fest all weekend. Go to MajorLeagueBaseball.com and find out all the activity and maybe take a trip down to Orange County. But come back to L.A. soon.
Are there any adjourning motions today, colleagues? If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise for our adjourning motions. Thank you. to recognize Ms. Hahn first.
Thank you, colleagues. I actually have three today. The first one I'd like to adjourn in memory of Captain Lawrence Welsh, who was the captain of the Lane Victory, the fully operational World War II victory ship that's located down in the port of Los Angeles in San Pedro. Larry learned his love for the water from his father, who was one of the first hard hat divers on the Hudson River. And as a teenager, he began working the barges on the Erie Canal. He worked his way up from mess boy to captain, and in 1982, Captain Welsh and his crew on the SS Chancellorsville rescued 5 crew members from a damaged yacht. He received the Admiral of the Ocean Sea Award, and he was also one of the first presidents of the Los Angeles Long Beach chapter of the International Organizations of Masters, Mates, and Pilots. After retiring in the 1980s, he became captain of the Lane Victory. He was a lifetime member of the Elks Club and had deep admiration and respect for Elks Club's members. He traveled the world, loved his country, the flag, and the soldiers that have served us since World War II. He's survived by his children, his son Lonnie, his daughter Patricia, and his son Robert, and their family. I'd also like us to adjourn the memory of Diana Park, who just passed away on July 1st. She was a resident of San Pedro for over 25 years and was active in the Palisades Residents Association. Diana was one of those committed community activists and an environmental steward. She was the President's Council member of the National Resources Defense Council, a member of the Mono Lake Committee, the Yosemite Association, the National Parks Conservation Association. She was a longtime supporter of the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy that helped to establish our White Point Nature Preserve down in San Pedro. She also shared her husband Noel's passion for environmental issues in the Port of Los Angeles and was one of the great voices that ultimately resulted in air quality measures to reduce air pollution for all of us in Southern California. Diana had been a registered nurse at Torrance Memorial Medical Center for 35 years, and she passed away at the oncology unit there, surrounded by her family and friends with a truly spectacular display of support from her professional colleagues. This was clearly a tribute to her nursing skills and to her compassion for her coworkers, patients, friends, and family. She's survived by her husband Noel and their 2 sons, Christopher and Jeffrey. Our condolences go out to her family. And the last one, colleagues, I want us to adjourn in the memory of Nicholas Balk, who unfortunately was tragically killed Friday night. He was only 18 in a car accident at the intersection of 9th and Gaffey. I actually came upon the accident right moments after it happened. I actually called 911 when I got there. He had graduated 10 days before from San Pedro High School. He was known as a sweet and funny guy who touched many lives. His favorite passion was classic cars, especially Cadillacs. He's survived by his loving parents, Joshua and Joanna, his brother Jordan, his sisters Priscilla and Shauna, his grandparents, Ramona and Dean Balk, and Rafael and Reina Dominguez. A memorial service will be held today at 1 o'clock at McMurney's Mortuary in San Pedro. It's always sad for us to adjourn in memory of those who have passed on. I know it's particularly hard when we do this for young people who have been taken way too early from our lives and certainly from their families' lives.
Thank you. Are there adjourning motions to the Parks? And then Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, although we've had many of these family members in council over the last several years, I would like particularly, I think it's fitting that the LAPD made an arrest on the Grimps sleeper case, that we adjourn in memory of the victims of those several horrible crimes that occurred over the last 25 years. And their names are Janethia Peters, Deborah Jackson, Henrietta Wright, Thomas Steele, Barbara Ware, Bonita Sparks, Mary Lowe, Lucretia Jefferson, Alicia Alexander, Princess Bartholomew Valerie McCorvey, and we ask that all of them rest in peace, and for their families, our hearts go out to them.
Thank you. We'll call all members on that. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Mr. President. I'd like us to adjourn in memory of Barbara Goldenberg. She just passed away this Wednesday, July 7th, after a long battle with cancer. In fact, she was in the council chambers a few weeks ago. Barbara's commitment to Brentwood began over 20 years ago when she and fellow tree lovers noticed many of the Monterey pines dying in the Brentwood Park neighborhood and immediately embarked on a project to replace the dying trees. This would only be the beginning of many of Barbara's efforts to enhance the natural environment in and around Brentwood. Because of her passion for trees, she soon became known as the Tree Lady, and that's how I met her, as the Tree Lady at Brentwood, a name that would follow her for 20-plus years. Barbara was the founding member of the SOS Coral Trees, a nonprofit formed to ensure that the magnificent coral trees along San Vicente Boulevard median be properly pruned each year. As a member of the Brentwood Park Property Owners Association Tree Committee, she was instrumental in creating and publishing a book on trees of Brentwood Park that displayed the historical beauty of the park and educates residents on tree preservation. Until recently, Barbara represented the 11th Council District on the Los Angeles Community Forest Advisory Committee. She was Vice President of the Brentwood Beautiful and Environmental Representative of the Brentwood Community Council, a member of the Brentwood Green, and very involved and became, frankly, Cindy Misakowski made her a Pioneer of the Year award. She also was involved with the Veterans Park Preserve, and she served on the San Vicente Review Board. Her unwavering devotion, commitment, and dedication to the Brentwood community will truly be missed by all of us who were touched by having her in our lives. She is survived by her daughter Amy Sweeney and son-in-law Patrick Sweeney and grandson Alexander Sweeney. I've been to her house several times. She hosts an annual event. The whole community comes out. Extremely gracious and generous, and may she rest in peace. My second is...
As well, I know I met her for many years.
That's right.
Anyone who does good green work in a neighborhood and plants trees leaves a legacy long past their time. And I saw that when Barbara was here last time. She truly is an angel in the City of Angels. Now she's with the Angels.
And thank you for that. And she was indeed a dear friend. That's one of the things we learn in politics. You get to meet nice people and really can bond. And she was one that I met 5 years ago, and she's just a joy. The second adjourning motion is for Stephen Herman Canner. He passed away on Friday, July 2nd.
Mr. Rosenbaum, I believe Mr. Koretz adjourned in his memory, but if you'd like to add your wishes, we did the other day. I know many of us knew him, and he was a great architect. And
yeah, and he lived in the Palisades. He did a lot of things, so hopefully we'll put myself on that, too.
Thank you.
May he rest in
all members on that. And did anybody adjourn in memory of Max Salter on Wednesday? If not, I'd like us to please adjourn in memory of Max Salter, who passed away on Tuesday at 90 years old. I think many folks know Joe Edmiston. His wife Pepper is the daughter of Max, who was an amazing civic and philanthropic activist. He was known as Mayor Max, served on the Beverly Hills City Council starting in 1986. He served from 86 to 94, and he was mayor from 1989 to 1993. Besides being on the council, he was chief executive officer of Beano's, a Los Angeles-based clothing company that was founded in 1938 with stores statewide. He was a friend of my grandfather who was in that same business as well. He served in the United States Navy from 1942 to 1946. Beverly Hills High School Theater, which hosts school board meetings and student performances, is named after him and his wife, Janet. He played a significant role in several community organizations, including serving as president of Temple Beth Am and as a member of the Board of Governors of the United Jewish Welfare Fund, and was a patron member of LACMA and a friend of the Los Angeles Music Center. He is survived by his wife and his children, Pepper, Michael, and Laura, who are all graduates of El Rodeo Middle School and Beverly Hills High School, and 11 grandchildren. And at 5 p.m. at Temple Beth Am on Sunday, July 11th, there will be a memorial service for Max Salter. Great man. Yeah, Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware that he had passed, and I'm shocked to hear it and saddened. I had a lot of opportunities to work with him when he was mayor and council member for a number of years in Beverly Hills, as a neighboring council member for many years, and as Beverly Hills representative in the State Assembly. He was one of the nicest people you could ever meet, and as Bill Rosendahl was saying about another individual earlier, one of the great things about being in elective office is you get to meet some wonderful people. Just a sweetheart, dedicated so many years of his life to serving his community in Beverly Hills, and he'll be greatly missed by everybody who knew him as a friend or as a colleague.
Mr. Rosendahl?
I would also like to second it, and I was shocked just to hear it when I was the cable guy with Westinghouse Broadcasting and Cable. I dealt with Beverly Hills and the city council before West Hollywood was even created, and he was a major player and an incredibly sensitive and dedicated man. May he rest in peace.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Clerk, if you please call the roll. We'll next be in session on Tuesday. That's the 13th of July. Have a good weekend. Be safe, and we'll see you here. This meeting of the Los Angeles